Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the only show in the world featuring David Ladd. It's time to grease your weasel and do whatever yo please'll, cause we're about to rock your 8-bit world. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to CoCoTALK episode 257. We've got a great show in store for you today. Are you ready? All right, here we are. We are here. The panel is assembled. The show is about to take place. Welcome to episode 257 of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy, Color Computer, MC10, and Dragon Data Systems computers and clones and compatibles and all that good stuff. We got people here to talk about stuff. We got stuff here to talk about people. We got all kinds of stuff. So let's just jump in. Let's say hi to the panel. Top left-hand corner, Rick Ulin is here. Hello, Rick.
Splash, folks.
All right. From CoCoConnect with one N.com, Rick Ulin, featuring fine peripherals, accessories, and upgrades for all kinds of computer-type things. I'm your host, Stevie Stroh. Hello, hello. We have our resident Apple guy, Mark Overholzer is here. Hello, Marco.
Hello. Sorry, I'm choppy. Glad to be here.
Our Game On segment dude, Ken Waters, Canadian Retro Things. How's it going, eh?
Woohoo! Made it to the top row.
Woohoo! Foreign correspondent and news anchor L. Curtis Boyle. How's it going, eh?
Woohoo! Made it to the second row.
Woohoo! Backup streamer and engineer Mark Bosley's in the house.
Hello.
Alan Murphy, Exile in Paradise. Hello, hello.
Yay! I made it out of bed.
Woohoo! This guy brings the joy and happiness to the Coco world. Ron Delvaux is here. How you doing, Ron?
End of the second row, yay!
Woo! And another Canadian, creator of many fine product and musical compositions, DeBruce Moore is here. Hello, DeBruce.
Hey, just slipped into the third row. Yes.
Speaking of music, he's muted, but Brian, the Music Man Shoebring is here. Hello, Brian.
I'm not muted, but hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. Brian's here. Last but certainly not least, the man who has the website called CocoMan.biz. Jason, the Coco Man Reichert is here. Hello, hello, Jason.
I got a rock.
And in the live chat, we are being greeted by people who are kind enough to spend their afternoon with us today. AC's 8-Bit Zone is here. David Kraker. Mikey is here. Mark Siegel. Mark O. Jim Rye. Mark Overholzer. Dave and Sharon. That's Mr. Dave 6309. And so many more. Thank you all for being here. And good night, everybody. All right. So, we are here. Kevin Holloway is here. Kevin Holloway. Hello, Kevin Holloway. Earlier, before the show even started, Exile in Paradise was here. And 6E Karen was here. Kevin was here. Canadian Retro Things is here. So many people here in the live chat. Thank you all for being here. We do not have a guest today, a special guest. We do not have an interview today, and that's okay. So what we will do is we'll go ahead and switch things around, and we'll go ahead and do our project updates and acquisitions at the top of the show. And then we'll get into everyone's favorite segment, the Game On results and Game On news and newsy and snoozy. Daniel's back. Hey, Daniel. Daniel joined us last night on our test call. Good to see you again. So, going around the room, excuse me, Rick Euland, do you have a project, update, or acquisition? Something you want to talk about, story to share?
Yeah, I guess something has happened this week. I now have two kinds of these, and I don't know why I can't. Oh, there we go. The scene has changed. So you may notice there is now a Coco 2 version of the keyboard fixer. It'll be on the site in days as soon as I build a couple of them and make sure they work reliably and so forth. So that's fun. One good thing happened this week. And I ran across this nice tech support document in case anyone needs some help from Seagate. Here's
CFAX?
Here's the number.
Is CFAX at all related to WeFax?
I don't know, but it caught my attention for that very reason.
It's for weather over the ocean, I think, or something like that.
All right.
And so that's
Take a
my
drink
week.
anyway.
Take a drink anyways.
There
Yeah.
we go. Take a drink anyway.
So for those who might not be aware, go back to the previous picture of your keyboard thingies that you just showed us.
Okay, these guys.
Yeah, we're assuming everybody knows what this is, but tell us what this is again for somebody who might be new to the program or just like me, never pays attention to anything.
Okay, so the Mylar on the Coco is really fragile and tends to break right where it comes out of the keyboard. And it's now gotten to the point where it sometimes just fails in the middle of the Mylar. So I've come up with this board that has physical switches and actual physical wires. So there's no Mylar left anywhere, and you just remove the metal plate, the Mylar off the back, put this thing on. Try not to lose any springs because that would be kind of horrendous. And throw your Coco back together and you're done.
So you turn your existing keyboard upside down, take out a few screws, screw this back in, and it replaces the circuitry underneath the keyboard with all brand new stuff. And it's all physical stuff, so it's not like that little piece of plastic that goes bad.
If 18 is a few, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The
there
original
you
keyboard had that Mylar, that bendable thing, and it would break all the traces. You could try
Right.
painting them together with that defogger paint or whatever, but it only works for so long, and it just doesn't work anymore. This is a nice solid circuit board replaced version of it that
Right.
doesn't bend. and
So if
break.
you got a Coco keyboard that just doesn't work anymore, this would be a replacement part for it. And the guts are all rugged and rigid, and the connection is nice and rigid too. So breathe new life into an old Coco keyboard.
Failures are minimal with this one.
Rick,
Yes.
now, just to mess with people, did you include the switch on the Coco 2 board?
No, you'll see, it's a completely different thing. I had to re-measure all the keys, and redraw the board, and change all this. It was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Just looking at the two on my desk and going, "Oh, they're pretty close." No, they ain't.
I have a question for you too, Rick. Does this? I presume it does, because I don't have one of the melted ones to find if it's exactly the same layout on the switches
That's
on the bottom.
a really good question.
Does it work on the melted versus the full travel keyboard on the Coco 2?
That's a good question. I also don't have a melted one to
Ooh,
try.
I've got a melted keyboard. Maybe I'll have to pick one of those up and try it out.
There was a version of keyboard, I don't remember which machine it went into, the 1 or the 2s. They didn't have the metal plate on the back. They just had a perf
There
board
was
type
a
thing.
Yeah, there was kind of a pre-Mylar Coco 1 board, wasn't there?
Yeah, it had that brown board or something on the bottom.
Yeah, I think it was a chiclet type, but
But it wasn't, made out of a sheet
That was
of
Coco
plastic.
1 from what I remember.
You
Now, one thing
mentioned-
you should mention here too, Rick, on the Coco 3 version, you've got the option of swapping keys around too, right?
Oh yeah, you can make Control and Alt the up and down arrow. Therefore, you can play Coco 2 games a lot easier. Obviously, there's nothing like that to do on a Coco 2, so I didn't.
You'd mentioned springs. The keys aren't springs loaded, are they? Or what are the springs?
Yeah,
loaded?
there's, the way a Coco keyboard works, the keycap sits on a post. That post has a spring over it, so it bounces off of the board underneath, the metal plate, whatever you got.
Yeah.
There's an arm that reaches off to one side that actually clicks the switch. So no matter how hard you smash that keyboard, you aren't smashing on the switches. You're just smashing on the metal plate or the plastic. So
I
it's
notice
pretty
when
nice
I'm
design.
typing on my Coco 2 keyboard, and it's quite bouncy, and it makes this ringing sound that's quite unique. Well, I mean, unique to my experience anyway. Always
Yeah,
know
there's
I'm
no parts
typing
in
on a
there.
Coco when it makes that little. It's like a reverberating in the case or something. Little bouncy noises. I love it.
Audio
Yeah,
feedback.
Well, they knew their audience. They put a solid metal plate under that sucker, so if you got the game in a little hard, you weren't going to break it.
All right. Who else got an update or acquisition? At Ken Waters, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, sure.
All right. We'll spotlight you.
So first off, I got my copy of 0 Hour,
Beauty.
but that's not the most important thing. This isn't a new acquisition, but a while ago I bought a box of Coco stuff, and I haven't really gone through it. There's some interesting documentation in here. So I've got a
Oh, those are neat.
extended
The quick reference. Yeah.
quick reference guide.
Those
So
are
it
neat.
shows
That's the
everything.
extended
and
basic one.
I saw in the Taylor and Amy show that they actually have the MC10 one of those. And there's a letter here from Tandy. I'm assuming it has to do with something with an update to the thing, because it talks about a bunch of different programs and key changes in them, like checkers.
They must have updated a ROM call or something.
Audio
like that.
spectrum analyzer, micro painter, how things have changed. So
Interesting.
I don't think I've ever seen that. What keys changed?
let's see.
Like, is it an
here.
update to the ROM or is it an update to the actual cartridges
I
themselves?
don't know. So micro painter and audio spectrum analyzer may require that you hold down the shift key when selecting options from the keyboard. For example, Popcorn manual states that you press brake to start the game. You may be required to hold down shift and then brake.
I've never had to press brake to start the game in Popcorn. I usually press the
I
fire
have no
button.
idea. But it's from Tandy. There's no
Okay.
date on it though. So
Interesting.
It's documented.
Yeah, you should scan that and put that in the archive. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we definitely.
And then the instruction manual for Thexter.
Ooh.
Oh.
Does it say does it say open package and throw in garbage?
No, that's the Predator one you're thinking of, Steve.
You better go ahead and run that through the shredder and then put it in the archive.
Some stuff from Where the World is Carmen San Diego.
Okay.
And here is an old catalog.
That was
Supplemental.
cool. That was the one that they never had out for the public to see. You had to ask for it.
Yeah, so it's
Ooh.
got all the different
Was kept
program
behind
packs
the
and stuff you
counter
can buy.
for the
Good
adults or what?
stuff.
Yeah, because that included third-party stuff too.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is
Not
actually
only so.
from Bailey's Home Entertainment Center in Lebanon, MO,
Mo.
Missouri?
whichever state
Lebanon?
that is.
Lebanon?
MO?
Missouri.
Missouri?
It's Missouri, yeah.
Misery.
Yep.
Misery.
Missouri.
Oh, Lebanon. Yeah, Lebanon, Missouri. Okay.
Lebanon.
430 South Jefferson.
Okay.
Don't know if that store's still there or not, but
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Is anything like that in the archive? Is the other question. 'Cause I've never seen one of those either.
The
Got some scanning to do, Ken.
the third party catalog, you mean?
Yes, yes.
well,
Okay.
Flight
No,
Simulator
not
2
the
works.
Thexter manual.
Yeah, Flight Simulator 1 and 2. Nice.
No, that's Flight Simulator 2,
Those
both
are
the
nice.
regular
Yeah, they're both-
manual and the flight guide.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
okay,
both
gotcha.
Flight
That's
Simulator
both
2.
part of Flight Sim 2.
Gotcha,
Nice.
gotcha.
And then an important note for the release of it that there's, I don't know, a bunch
Yeah,
of
there's
stuff
special
about
keys for the Coco version
special
of Flight
keys
Sim 2.
and programs you have to put in to do stuff.
Yeah, that's the duplicate the DOS command if you only had disk extended basic 1.0.
And then way more than I've ever wanted to know about color logo.
All right. I've got that blue book. I don't have the orange one.
Yeah, that orange one, I don't think I've seen that before. What does it say on the cover?
That's the TRS-80 logo computer camp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's-
these are some things that might.
That you might have to scan too then. I don't
yeah,
know
you
if
got,
that's
you got
in
some
the article.
archiving work ahead of you there, Mr. Waters.
Oh, okay. Anyways, that was the most interesting stuff in there. Other than that, it was a bunch of manuals for the tape drive and stuff like that. So
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. And L. Curtis Boyle, anything from you?
Well, we've got an upcoming interview, but you'll be playing the bumper for that
We'll
later
play,
on
we'll
in
play
the show.
a teaser clip for that. Okay. Mr. Murphy, anything you're working on you want to share?
Just been putting some updates to my Nostromo wiki page and posting up some other stuff on my wiki.
And I noticed in the blog channel on Discord you had posted some blog updates to a few different things, right?
Yeah, that's the ones.
Okay, gotcha. I actually looked. I I forgot who I was talking to the other day, but like when it comes to being on Discord, I typically look at two things. I look at our planning channel and I look at the CoCoTALK lobby, and then that's about it. So anything that happens outside of there, I don't really get a chance to look at too often because there's so much. And I will look at the game on results sometimes, but I actually did kind of poke around and I saw the blog channel and I saw you actually had posted a few links. So that's good to know. I'm not trying to say this to like pat ourselves on the back or anything like that, but I just think that this Discord server has become such a huge resource. It's being used, so not by me, but it's being used so much by so many people. There's just so much there, and it's become, a resource and a repository and everything. And that's just like a lot of aspects of this show, just things we never expected to happen that have just happened, that have just turned out to be a benefit to the community at large. And so I just love that. And we have an update today on who's new to Discord. Like, people are joining all the time, and there's so much stuff going on there. So yeah, it's great. Thanks to Discord. Thanks for everybody who's there and who's continuing to contribute and give us stuff to, talk about and do and look at,
So Alan, since I didn't put that in the news, like, because I knew you'd be on the show, is there anything specific you want to say about what blogs you put up and what they covered?
I put up some stuff about the MGE file format and a little Python viewer for Linux that I wrote for it, because I'm using that as the big, nice title screen for Nostromo to include the box art from the original game in some form, and put a whole bunch of stuff up there. On the Nostromo side, I put up the source breakdown and the Z80 assembly breakdown that that come off of the tape when you load it on the original machine, and then I've got the index of all of the code modules that I've got so far and kind of what they're for, and then I'll be filling those in as I go so that people can look at how each of those pieces work and steal what they need from them if there's anything useful.
Cool. I haven't had a chance to check it out myself yet, but I'll have to.
All right, very cool. And now, Ron Delvaux, you've been busy this week on the Facebooks, and you've been posting a lot of vintage advertisements from Tandy products. Would you want to share some of those with us today?
Yeah, I found this in my collection. It's called Apollo 18 Accolade, and it shows an astronaut floating above the moon.
And that's a radio? That's a Tandy product?
Yeah, this is for the Tandy 1000.
Oh, okay.
From 1987, and it says, about President Kennedy saying "Go forth," and it says Accolade gives you the opportunity to share the thrill and tension and exhilaration of going to the moon, and it's it was $1.98 or $1.99. There you are.
Wow.
And it's sealed, and I thought that was pretty cool.
So
anybody ever play it
it
on their Tandy 1000?
No, I don't know. No. I've never seen that before, but that's cool.
Yeah. Then I got this radio for my mom. It's a Radio Shack. It also comes as a realistic, and it's so darn cheap it barely plays anything good. But, she has had one for years, and she puts it under her pillow, and she says she wanted another one because she thought hers was starting to get old or it was getting static and stuff. And I said, sure. So I ordered that like 3 months ago, and it went to St. Louis and got lost. And then they sent it back to the guy who originally shipped it, and then he sent it again. And then it turned out it wasn't even working well.
Did you buy it on eBay or something? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was Marketplace.
Okay.
It was $8 or
Okay.
something. Yeah, crazy. So I'll share screen.
So she was complaining that her radio was old, and so your solution was to replace it with another old radio.
With another one that maybe it didn't work, because it was
replace it with a non-working model.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense, doesn't it? I don't know. Anyway, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this here.
Yeah, somebody is selling those advertisements as like they're printed on metal, so you can kind of frame them, and that's kind of what that is there.
Yeah, and it looks really sharp and clear and clean, even though it's got rust on the edges.
Yeah. So it kind of has that vintage graded, distressed look to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of putting the graphics on the TV.
Yeah.
Where it's tough to get a picture of that, and they did a nice job. There's other ones that don't go so well. Anyway, has anybody ever seen this?
I saw it at Rainbow Fest.
Now, exactly what is it? I mean, you plug this into
Kind of
your
like a
machine.
multi-pack, right?
It's like a 2-slot multi-pack.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, see this cable? I mean, you got to put this into the slot on the side of your Coco, and then this sticks
Right.
outside of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That way they didn't have to make it all match and fit. You just
Also,
plug the thing in the
vibration.
Coco and
Also, you wouldn't have to worry about it possibly separating and crashing.
Yeah, well, this is something that I never really saw. And,
Wow. Well, it was cheaper than a multi-pack.
yeah.
Quite a bit. The multi-pack at that time, I think, was $179.
Yeah.
I mean, the repack I did, I had less trouble with the cable between the Coco bus and the device than trying to keep a multi-pack plugged into the side of it.
Al
So-
Hartman says, no, but I used to work for them.
Spectrum Projects.
Spectrum Projects,
That's
yeah.
right.
And here's I went through some of the old rainbows, and I'm just
Yeah.
looking through and thinking, well, I never really paid attention to this ad before, but this is well done.
Yeah.
The artwork's kind of neat, and someone mentioned that.
Yeah, that's
It-
Mike Lustig's company. He did some other stuff for Computerware and a few other companies
Yeah.
as well.
So I wonder, how much of this stuff is on the archive? All of it?
Oh yeah, all those
Yeah.
are there. Desert
Okay.
Patrol is like a moon patrol. It's just you're driving a Jeep instead of a space buggy.
Ice Masters,
Yeah.
Pango.
Yeah, Wacky Food is that's not like Food Fight. Is that the one where you're the mouse?
No, Food Wars, Food Fight. Wacky Food's the other one. What the heck
It's like the semi-graphics one where you're eating you have to avoid the purple pickle or something like that, or I don't remember.
Yeah, and this also brings up the.
You got to
someone
shoot
mentioned-
pairs. I can't remember what the arcade version is called.
Yeah, someone mentioned that they passed some kind of law to make it so that model cars would look like they do from the box. In other words, they don't want you to see it. Try and buy a little model car that looks so much better than what it actually is. And it's the same thing. You would think they would have done the same thing with, computer games, because I'm certain.
Truth in advertising.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. The usually the advertisement would
Well,
sometimes.
they're showing you the legitimate artwork from the software manual or something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even today, you will very occasionally see not actual gameplay at the bottom of a trailer, but
Right.
not always.
Now there's one I recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Cartridge has
doesn't
never been
get large well, but it's cool how it's first. In fact, the little PC,
The little pocket
61.
computer, like the
The
calculator.
original pocket computer. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I never found useful at all. I've had a couple of them, and they basically last a year.
Is that the
And then
1981 computer catalog?
I don't know.
I remember I had that one at one point, and I still had Radio Shack catalogs with the Canadian prices in them. Unfortunately, I lost all those in a move 3 decades back.
All right, and then
Canyon Climber
yeah,
with fake colors, but
see
still.
the prices, yeah, and then here's a neat one. Stars. This is an astronomy one, which I've never seen. I guess I have
Yeah,
to
this
look.
one we are missing most of these on the archive. Illume Design was a company out of Quebec, and I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he did something called Motion Picture Programming (MPP), which is to do animations in BASIC.
Huh.
And he got quite famous. Lonnie Falk was completely taken with this. He was hyping it up every chance he had in 81, 82. But then the guy passed away, I think in 83 or 84, so the company just stopped. But they had some pretty advanced for the time graphic animation stuff, and unfortunately I don't have any of this stuff myself. Most of it's not in the archive. I've never seen that Spider Attack game, for example. But Color Show was the one that kind of was the main driver for them. That was a thing that Lonnie kept typing up in the early issues of Rainbow.
Huh.
Arnold Pouch, I think, was his name, if I remember. That just popped in my head.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to see that Stars one for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's this one. At first, this does not look well.
It looks like that one caveman game where you have to club your wife and take her to the cave.
Yeah.
Except he's done that.
Yeah. You know, and I cut it out and I put it on, and I was all excited about the Ram Charger upgrade. Thinking it was the guy's the Mopar guy, and he thought of using that name. And then after it was up, and I went and looked at it again, I saw this, and I thought, oh, geez, that's not well at all. I probably
Yeah, this is one of Spectral Associates' earlier ads. One of the first ones, I think they had actually artwork in it, because they had a couple before that in 80 Micro that were just little text bits.
Yeah.
So this came out probably late 81, early 1982, if I remember. It's back when Space Invaders first came out, Space War. But, Ghost Gobbler wasn't out yet, and Keys of the Wizard wasn't out yet, etc. Madison Minotaur, of course, eventually got sold by Tandy themselves, but this is back when Spectral sold on their own. They also did Flex, which is that mentioned on this one? They had their own assembler. They had some basic games they used to sell, like Star Traders and a few others. I can't read the ad from here, so I can't tell if this is one of the ones that has that. And then they had a RAM upgrade that required not even opening your case. They'd actually put the RAM in the cartridge port, and you'd plug it in and just power it up, and voila, you had 32K if you had a 416K Coco.
That's cool. Anyway, so
Yeah, that's neat.
that's weird.
Good old advertisements.
There's the rainbow.
Yeah.
The colors, anyway. And 2 drives.
Yes.
And then our favorite guy,
Isaac Asimov.
Yeah, and this is a really clear ad. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I remember this one too.
Yeah.
This was in a whole bunch of magazines back in the day, not even just Coco.
Right.
There's our Black Beauties.
Black Beauties with the metal sticks, yeah.
Yeah.
Classics.
Awesome. Yeah, so stuff like this I used to stare at and think, I would love that. Because I had the gray case before.
Look at that, $259 for the 64K Coco 2. That was a wow.
Yeah, and that's the original melted keyboard version.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this TV was digital. It didn't have any buttons to select. It would have had a readout.
LED,
no rotary knobs, So that was an upgrade.
I remember that ad, yeah. That one I remember.
Yeah. And there's the
hand-me-down modem from the TRS-80 Model 1. Yeah, we got some old crap from this other system. We'll make a cable and plug it into the Coco.
It worked. I had a friend who had one of those.
Yeah.
In 82, this came out.
Yeah, it's the Model 3 and Coco side by side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. And that's really, really nice pictures on both.
Yeah.
Here we go, a Christmas one, and this is not put in the very well. It's
that'll sell 1,000 units. Let's showcase some text.
There's
I like how that particular one actually kind of sneak peeks the T1 VDG that would come out years later, because it's actually got the full green border and no black border.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
True.
Didn't even come out to 84, 85. It's something 85, I think.
That's true. Yep. And in this one,
Tandy Computer
like a
Products.
generic.
Yeah.
There's that big honking hard drive for $5,000 too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which worked on the Coco with their sassy adapter card.
Yeah.
Yep. I still sold the adapter.
Yeah, I remember that ad there too.
That one I remember with different prices.
Yeah, with improper colors for Polaris. We never had pink and sky blue on the Coco, but
well, if you adjust the tint control, you could.
Well, they had license back then to change things and make it look appealing.
Yes, I had that
64K Coco.
I had that. That was my second Coco. I went from the silver to the white.
That's
full size.
That's a Coco 2 up under where Nick Marentes lives.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, the PAL version was that's called the Coco 2.
Yep. Christmas. Look
What
at how
circuit
white it
program
is.
was that thing using?
What was that, Brian?
What was the program for doing the circuits?
Oh,
it was called the Imaginary CAD program.
It was an extended basic program from what I remember, wasn't it?
Oh,
It was just some little demo thing.
It doesn't mention on there, does it?
CoCAD.
Faux CAD. Yeah, it's using that faux CAD product.
This is a color computer too, and
Yeah,
it looks
shooting gallery.
The way they shot it, it's so bright white.
Yeah.
You're not used to seeing it that color.
And they didn't have
nowadays.
They didn't have Photoshop back then.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Visit your Ron's garage on occasion. See what's happening.
Roger that. Thanks for sharing, Ron. Yeah, Ron's always got something cool going on Facebook.
And if you see behind Ron, it looks like the actual garage door.
Yes, I'm actually in the garage now. I've been in the garage for a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
I have more stuff set up. Like somebody asked how many Cocos you have set up. I've got 7 of them.
Wow.
When's she letting you back in the house, Ron?
How many arms do you have? Just out of curiosity.
I'm not going in there no more. I've been booted to the real garage.
We've been joined by Simon Jonason, the madman. Hey, Simon, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Anything new going on with you? We're kind of doing updates and acquisitions right now. Any projects you're working on? Anything going on in your world?
Acquisitions. You're going to kill me for this one, but here's an acquisition.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Beauty. That's the MC10's little brother.
I have one too, Simon.
Hey, that's what I learned basic on.
So is that the original Sinclair one, Simon, or is that a Timex version?
No, it's a ZX.
It's an original ZX one.
Yeah. Made in England?
Yep.
Oh.
So
What else is going on in your world? What kind of mad things are you doing?
Not a lot of Coco actually, because too much real life stuff going on. I've been helping Paulie T a little bit.
Okay.
So I've just been idling. I'm playing with a music player because Paulie T was about with his new game. You know, it's like a puzzle game.
Coco Bun.
Yeah, Coco Bun. And he was on about, well, I want to have a fixed frame rate, so I want like a V-Sync IRQ going on together with the H-Sync IRQ or the timer IRQ for sound effects and stuff like that. And I said, well, yeah, fine, I'll just do it for you. So I programmed it the other day.
Nice.
But apart from that, yeah, just yeah.
Okay, well, it's good to see you. Been a while.
Well,
yep. And it looks like Rick Ewan's got some beard competition going on.
And what about you, DeBruce? Anything you want to update us on, or are we just going to save it all for Coco Fest? Or
Oh no, I can update a little bit.
Okay.
I have a misacquisition. Actually, I tried to get one of those Toshiba wireless SD cards.
Okay.
You know, you did a thing on that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, hard to find anywhere. I did find one in China. They shipped it a month ago, and they finally realized that it's gone. So supposedly they're going to send me another one. The idea was I was trying to get it to speed my development so I could have stuff ready for Coco Fest.
And of course now it's delayed. The speed up thing is delaying everything.
Yeah, so by by the time it gets here, I'll probably be having to get in the car and drive to the fest. So we'll see what happens there. But you mentioned earlier about Discord and just the surprise, the surprise value of that. I'm there all the time getting technical help these days, and it is amazing the amount of help and direction and ideas that come out of there. So my latest thing is I'm working on my game, and I'm realizing I got 2 floppy disks, and they're practically full. It's like, oh no, well what's the big deal? Just add a third one. Turns out on the SDC, you can only mount 2 local floppy disks. The other 2 slots
have to be
drive wire.
You can turn that off though. You can say no. There's a command. No drive.
You can say no.
You can, but it doesn't change drives 2 and 3.
But
only
you can't put anything. That's right. You can't put anything.
So you couldn't have like a mount multi. You couldn't mount multi four discs like you could on a real Coco.
No, right. Or like you could
2.
on VCC or on the emulators.
Okay.
So I'm scratching my head, and then some guys are going, well, what about a hard drive? Because you can pack floppies onto a hard drive. You can do that through
HDB DOS.
Yeah, HDB DOS. The drive wire communication thing. Oh, okay. Well, and SGC has support for that, and Tim Linder's jumping in there with ideas, and Dave 6309 is in there, and Henry Reitfeld sending me an image, and all these things almost got there. Almost. They wouldn't quite work on the SDC. You couldn't still couldn't mount more than 2 images, 2 individual floppies. I could have got a hard drive, a virtual hard drive with a whole bunch of floppies on it, and you just keep swapping them into drive 0. You could flip between them if you wanted, right? But drive 1 that wouldn't work, and drives 3 and 4 are out. So I couldn't have more than 1 disk on it at a time. That would be possible, except the whole project is not built around that at this stage.
Right.
There'd be a lot of retooling. So what I did end up going with, and it looks like it's working, and it's a bit of a hack, but it looks stable, is you can if you're in all RAM mode, which my project is, you're in all RAM mode, you can actually put a couple of pokes in to enable double-sided floppies. So disk 0, if you put the poke in, the flip side of disk 0 becomes disk 2. Now, we still got a problem on the SDC because disk 2 isn't accessible, right? Well, if you do this poke and you turn that off, suddenly it's there. You can see the back side of disk 0.
Even on the SDC?
On the SDC, yeah, that was it. So there's my solution. I can actually, but I have to use double-sided formatted, and then so initially I have to run a little program that will back up that disk 2 onto the flip side of drive 0. Once that's done, though, you're good. So so it's just one little extra step, but it solved it, and that's sort of what I spent the week on. Now I got to get back to getting the game tuned and workable for you know.
So
for
are we
all
going to need a 64 gigabyte SD card for this game?
Oh no, like 3 floppies, right? That's it, right? Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's not, no. But you will need a 64K like all RAM mode to do it. And I'm looking forward to running the demo at the fest and observing, because you know it's all about gameplay, right? This stuff is like these games. You'd have to have an imagination for any kind of 8-bit game, right? Like it's. Like, look at this graphic behind me. You got to have an imagination to think this is a you know, some sort of scary tree, right?
It looks scary.
But it's the gameplay, and so I'm interested in seeing what as different people play it. I know it's going to give me some ideas. Oh, well, that could, you know, and sort of tweak it all and that, and then you know, after the fest, get it ready for production. So that's my update. It's been a lot of
That's
fun.
cool. We're looking forward to that, to the world premiere, and we'll run the teaser clip for that project again today when we take our commercial break.
Cool, thanks.
All right. Cool.
Awesome innovation.
Brian, the Music Man Schubring, anything new and exciting with you going on? Updates, acquisitions, stories to share?
Well, the only thing that's been really going on is look right over here at my shoulder, right there where my thumb is.
Looks like a vinyl
an old
player.
record player
Yeah.
that I used to have. You know, since my dad passed, and that was been cleaning out his place, and he actually stored, without my knowledge, stuff that I used to have at the old house that I had left there, and I thought was lost in a flood. But he actually had stored it for me. So I got a new LP, you know, new record player, shall I say, Techniques, and just been, my wife and I have gone on, shall we say, a buying spree for LPs and for vinyl.
Neat.
I was just going to ask Brian, are you going to test it with that Rainbow Flexi disc where they had the 3 programs on it on their 2nd anniversary issue? You could try it on that. See if you can load off of it.
Oh wait! Oh, you just lost me.
There
What are
was
you talking about?
there was like a little thin record that came in a Rainbow magazine, and you could play the record, and it had like software, so it was like the vinyl version of a cassette to do a C low down.
Oh, okay.
Right.
You
So
know,
you
that
could.
might be interesting.
So if
was
you
it a 45 or 33?
It was it's like
33.
was
It was a
it?
Flexi disc. It was old plastic, black plastic,
Right,
flexible,
put a
bendable
nickel on
discs.
the label and
Yeah.
there it goes.
Yeah, July 1983 Rainbow. If you need to look it up.
July 1983. I'll have to see what I've got here. Yeah.
And
That
don't
might
bend
be
it too much.
interesting.
Don't bend it too much, right?
There's 3 programs on it, if I remember correctly. Even has a little part where it says place a quarter here, so it weight it down so it wouldn't bounce too much.
Yeah, I had that one. I remember that one. I had that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So
Yeah, I have to try that.
Brian,
Maybe I'll bring it over to the fest.
Yeah, I want
Maybe.
to thank you, Brian, because I had inquired to you how you had that scroll going on in your OBS, and you kind of pointed me in the right direction. And so
Yep,
I
I
don't know
saw.
if you noticed that I've got a kind of a scroll on ours now too, thanks to your pointing me there, right? Like the little
Yeah, I
little
see you
stock
got 2
ticker.
and the scroll going across and one at the top.
Yep. So you put me on the path, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I've been. Oh, I also play with some of your filters for your audio, because you can set up your the gate so that you don't get noise.
I tried that, and then And I think it was affecting how it's coming through on the stream. I tried that a little bit.
Just for your microphone. You don't need it for your other sources.
I know. We'll talk about that offline. But I had tried that once before, because I even like Googled that and found a YouTube video, and the guy recommended like 3 filters and blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, cool. But thanks for that, because now I have a cool looking scroll, and I like the scroll. Very
yay.
It's very Fox Newsy, So.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's it. So, Jason the Coco Man Reichert, anything new in your world? Any new products? Any teasers for Coco Fest?
Well, I can talk a little bit here. I brought my own lower third today. I guess I can scroll.
Do the scroll.
I can go ahead and scroll down.
That's practical effects, folks. They don't do them like that anymore. It's all digital these days. So
the lowest budget special effects possible. Here we go.
And I am getting ready for Coco Fest. So and my plan is to bring some of the as yet to be named more compact, enhanced high resolution adapter. Bring a few of those with me, and a few of the Joey high res and that stuff there. It's just going to depend on what I can build and what I can get parts for and all that fun stuff. Supply chains are pretty screwed up right now, but that's about it. Just hoping to have stuff ready for Coco Fest. And how long is it, the Coco Fest? What, about a month now?
Yeah, May 14th and 15th. Yeah, we're getting dangerously close. Yeah.
Are you going to have it so we can see your Dodge Journey if we go to the Coco Fest and see all the places where you did your on the road?
I may. That's actually going to depend. It may be in the shop at that time. We're not. We'll see. But I do have a scary tree.
Oh, the Cappadocia. I remember that.
That's right.
You're just jealous.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Beauty. Yeah. Cool. So have we gone around? Has everybody done their update and their acquisition?
Unless Mark Bosley has one.
Mark B, anything?
No.
Okay, so I do have one project update as well, which is somewhat Coco related, but it is more related to our audience and our panel members too, because we all have a variety of interests outside of the world of the color computer as well.
We do?
Well, a lot of us do. A lot of us do. Now,
what kind of life is that?
Right. So a long time ago, when we did our first kind of offshoot show, when we started CoCoTALK After Dark, that became the first kind of spin-off from CoCoTALK, and we had a lot of fun with CoCoTALK After Dark, and CoCoTALK After Dark just started straying into a lot of different topics too that were not necessarily Coco related, and I was like, man, we need to do more of this, and we need to do shows talking about other computers that aren't just Coco's. We need to do shows talking about geeky stuff that are not Coco related as well, because we all kind of just love talking about stuff. And so I was excited about that idea, and for whatever reason, we never actually followed through on that threat. So I have done that now. I've started my first official real podcast that is a general audience type podcast, and I'll bring up the thing for that. But this is the website for it, and the podcast is called Culture Goes Pop, and it's going to be talking about pop culture. Who names it? Who you name it? Who knows, right? So here's the little kind of synopsis I came up with. From nostalgia to now, from geek to chic, we'll cover everything from video games, movies, TVs, current events, music, social media, social issues, and more. And it is an actual podcast. It's audio. It is already up on Amazon and Anchor and Apple, Google coming soon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and it's surprisingly easy to get a podcast on the air. And so this is kind of happened because of a kind of a co-host that a friend of mine the guy's been interning with me, and we've been doing like a lot of long car rides and having all kinds of geeky conversations. And I was like, man, we really got to. We should be recording these things that we're talking about, and we should make this a podcast. And the idea is it's going to be an actual audio podcast. That's the focus. Like right now, CoCoTALK, it's a video. It's 2 or 3 hours. It's stream of consciousness, and then we just throw the audio up as a podcast as kind of like a afterthought. This is a forethought where it's going to be audio driven and hopefully bite-sized nuggets of maybe hour-long episodes, probably weekly, maybe sometimes more than weekly. But we can talk about anything at this point. And I know our audience members have lots of interest outside of the color computer, and I know our panel members do, and I even know some of our guests. We interviewed guests where what they do are of interest outside of just the Coco. Like Taylor and Amy. We interviewed them, and their YouTube channel is not just Coco related. They do all kinds of stuff. So I would like to take a lot of the content we already have of certain interviews and certain guests that we've already had and just re-air those as an episode. And just because there's just so much of that, like the Randy Kindig interview would be a good one because he's a vintage computing podcast, not just Coco podcast, right? Taylor and Amy come to mind. A long time ago, we did an interview with Jerry Buckner, and then recently we did like Glenn Dahlgren talking about his 2 novels and things like that. So I think there's a lot of episodes we've already done and interviews we've already done in CoCoTALK that I can re-air, kind of recycle for this, so you can listen to just that segment, just an audio format. And then we want to talk about new things. So we'll be having like after shows where we'll talk about what's streaming on Netflix and on all these different things and what movies are coming out. So we'll talk about new stuff and we'll talk about old stuff, talk about whatever. So hopefully if you like this format of geeking out on things, we'll be able to geek out on a lot more things. So we'd definitely appreciate if people could subscribe to the podcast and start listening to the podcast. We've got 1 official episode out and more to come. So that's all I have to say about that. It's Culture Goes Pop, the podcast, culturegoespop.com, and we got all kinds of social media. I got a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all those, things you got to have to do those kind of things. And I'm looking forward to getting more of us on the panel on there talking about things that we enjoy outside of the world of Coco too. And I know Alan Murphy is definitely going to be one of them because he loves a lot of sci-fi stuff. So I'm really looking forward to getting deep into stuff with Alan on an episode. And so if anybody who wants to come up with an idea for a topic, let me know and we'll make it so. Right? So that's my project. That's my side project. And that's all I have to say about that. Are we ready to take a commercial break and then move on into the game on results segments? And I need a potty break too. So I think what I'll do is I'll play a long commercial first so I can go potty. And then we'll play a couple of our short commercials, including a teaser of an upcoming interview that we're going to have with a Coco dude. All right. So let's find a stock commercial break we can run. How about the real bargain commercial? We'll go ahead and do that one with rising entertainment costs. That's a real bargain. So we're going to run that one and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Hi, I'm Kieran Anscombe, author of XRAW, and your brain is resolving sensory input into CoCoTALK.
And now these messages. It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
This year, I needed to give a real family pleaser.
Honey, please help me with this budget.
How about a new game, Dad? Please.
And I found it. Radio Shack's Color Computer 2. On sale for just $99.95. It entertains, educates, manages, it's expandable, and affordable. Now that really pleases me.
The Color Computer 2. Sale price for Christmas. Only at Radio Shack.
At Gsoft, we make games for the TRS-80 Color Computer, TRS-80 MC10, and Dragon computers. Our basic games cover the range of genres from arcade, to text adventures, to simulations, to 3D dungeon crawls. This is our latest puzzle game from Japan, Fruit Panic. So come on and drop by our website and download our latest games.
Tired of your color computer art input device being low res? Joey has you covered again. Switch between 3 joysticks or mice. Select the left or right port on your Coco. No more swapping joystick ports. Switch between standard and high resolution mode. Supports the Tandy and the Max high resolution mode. Order yours today at cocoman.biz.
And now, Coco Thoughts by Samuel Gynes. Legend says, when the moon is full, if you go out in the country by the lake and whisper the name of Nick Marotta 3 times, his spirit will appear and he will grant you a product idea.
Radio Shack has a great gift idea for the whole family. Fast action TV games, and they're on sale. Get this 6-game model for $29.95 or the 4-game model for $21.95. With rising entertainment costs, that's a real bargain. You play hockey, tennis, squash, and more. Easy to hook up and great family fun that lasts all year long. The sale price TV games. Only at Radio Shack, a Tandy company.
Hi, I'm Terry Steen, author of Balloon Fire and other amazing games on the color computer. And you're listening to Stevie Stroh on CoCoTALK.
Hi, Retro Tech Heads, Data Soup here. You're watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and proudly Patreon sponsored by RetroTechTime.com.
CoCoTALK would like to thank our patrons who sponsor our program, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Bowton Aaron, Brendan Donahue, Brian Weasler, Brian Walsh, Karen Anscombe, D. Bruce Moore, Daddy Burrito, Daniel Williams, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Downs, J Style, Ken Reichert, Malfunct, Michael Pitsley, Michael Rayburn, OG Hugo, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Paul Thayer, Retro Tech Time, Rick Hewlin, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Steve Rasmussen, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tim Thayer, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom Herron, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athan. Thank you ever so much, patrons.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week?
Jeff. Hi there, Jeff here. Back in the day, up until the late 90s, I was doing some mid-level basic 09 experiments and some stuff with the OS9C compiler and the RMA assembler. I started with an old gray, secretly 64K Coco, that Bob Vanderpool put the gates into, so I could use all the factory RAM. Uber Geek. Hi all. Corey here. I'm into collecting and emulating and tinkering with mostly Tandy computers. I really like and own the Model 100, and wish I owned a Model 200. Also, just grabbed a Tandy FD 1400. I grew up on a Coco 2 and then 3. Still waiting for the right time to either do a FPGA Coco kit or locate a working setup. Fruit Loop. Hi, I'm Dan. I have enjoyed programming with the Coco 3 since 1988. Most recently I put Tim Hartnell's game, Searching for Daryl, on the Color Computer Archive. Lil Yeem. Hi all, my name's Saeem. I'm an undergrad CS student just trying to learn more on 6809 assembly, for one of my upcoming courses. I found out about the Discord server through the YouTube channel, where I was learning so much from. I thought asking questions about programming related to 6809 here might prove helpful. The previous bios were edited for time's sake. Thanks to Melly, Boysantech, Paul Fiscarelli, Eric Canales, the Glenside Color Computer Club, Terry Stagg E., and the CoCoTALK patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. At discord.cocotalk.live.
For many a year, peace has reigned throughout the realm. In the forest, nothing but ruins of an ancient fortress remain to fuel the myth of the evil wizard. Tales of your ancestors' quest are met with laughter. Mockery follows your warnings. But you know what awaits.
Hi, this is Terry Steen, author of Coco games like Gray Lady, Balloon Fire, Gunfighter, and Miss Pac. And I'll be on the CoCoTALK show live April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, this is Terry Steen. I'm the author of a bunch of Coco games like Balloon Fire, Gray Lady, Gunfighter, Miss Pac-Man. And I'm going to be on the CoCoTALK show on I knew I was going to screw up. All right, maybe we should just cancel the whole thing.
Take two.
Hi, this is Terry Steen. I'm the author of a lot of Coco games like Balloon Fire, Gray Lady, Gunfighter, Miss Pac-Man, and I'm going to be on the Coco show April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
We're not the Coco show. We're CoCoTALK.
Oh, sorry.
That's a different show.
Coco show today, buddy.
Third time's the charm. All right, we are back after our commercial break and our potty break. It's in the union contract that Ron Delvaux gets a potty break. We have to honor that or face Teamsters, and we're not ready for that on a Saturday. So yeah, that was our little teaser. Terry Steen, author of Balloon Fire, Gray Lady, and so many more Coco games, is going to be with us live. He's also the inspiration, which we probably should have put that in the teaser. He's the inspiration behind the game Nightmare Highway. He lived the Nightmare Highway. We are just playing the game version of that. He is the real life person who experienced real life Nightmare Highway. And when I say Nightmare Highway, you say
Nightmare Highway.
There you go. So he'll be our guest April 23rd, right, Curtis?
Yep, correct.
That's not this weekend. It's not. Is it next weekend or the weekend after that? I can't do math.
Weekend after.
So 2 weeks from now, look forward to Terry Steen, prolific author, all around wonderful human being. You can't say enough good things about Terry. Love that man. All right. So
a destroyer of couches.
Destroyer of couches. Yes.
God bless his heart, huh?
Bless his heart. Yes. All right. So we are ready to roll into the results of this week's Game On Challenge. I have picked from the endless list of greatest hits. We're gonna start off with a Coco Thoughts, and then we'll take it from there. Here we go.
And now, Coco Thoughts by Samuel Gymes. In Florida, when the temperature drops below 50 degrees, residents think they have been thrust into a real-life game of Ice Master.
All right, everybody, get ready for the Game On results with Canada's own Canadian Retro Things, Ken Waters. How did we do this week, Ken? What were those results?
Welcome everybody to the results of this week's CoCoTALK Game On Challenge, where we played the Contras. There were a total of 16 players. We had Rich N with 12,300, Joshua 14,500, Kieran 15,300, Mark B 16,700, Mr. Dave 6309 17,000, Henry 17,100, Sloopy Malibu 66,300.
Nice.
Buck Owens 76,900. Jim Rye 81,400. Sabhead 81,600. Canadian Retro Things 138,900.
Look at you.
Bill Curtis Boyle 141,900. Redbeard 218,650. David Craker 224,600. Eric Omont 225,400. And the number one score this week was Tasman with 302,700. Thanks everybody that played this week, and we will see you next week.
Tasman's becoming a force to be reckoned with. As soon as you see
absolutely
that,
is.
as soon as you see Buck Owens' list and it's in the list, it's like, okay, he did not win this week. Okay, so congratulations, Tasman, and some really good scores. Those scores are really getting up there.
Yeah, some really good scores. I had a quick look through some magazines. I don't know, was there anything even published when this game came out for Coco magazines, Curtis?
World of 6 to 8 micros would have been going, but they didn't have high score lists, so you wouldn't have seen them.
So
scores there,
didn't get any articles or anything like that. So although this game did have some interesting history about its coming out, didn't it, Curtis?
Yeah, it was originally meant to be released in 1991. In fact, you'll see some of the copyright notices. I think the main graphical one actually says that, and that was when Doug Maston, who's actually in our Discord, was doing it by himself. And he was a teenager in high school, and it just got to be too overwhelming of a project for him, so he had to stop or he'd go insane. And then Jeff Steidl, who did Photon and Graphic Express, ended up finishing it up a couple of years later in 1993 just to get it out the door. And Glenn Dahlgren's talked about that when we've interviewed him about it. So basically, it had a 2-year span before it finally got actually released. And
but I gotta say, it looks really good. So for a teenager in high school to even start a game like this is...
Yeah, and ambitious too. I mean, he's got hardware scrolling. He's got real digitized, not only sound effects, but digitized music effects.
Yeah.
He's got like drums and everything else, and he's got 3 voices playing at once. And like, it's a really ambitious product. It's probably the best music I've heard on a Coco 3 game that plays while the game's playing, because it's not just your standard, organy music that we're used to, or even more advanced organy music like Photon. It's percussion with drums and the whole shebang. So
yes, it was an excellent version. Actually, I've actually have to admit I've never played like the Nintendo version, but I can imagine this is quite comparable.
The first screen is very similar to the Nintendo version. Even the title screen is similar to it as well.
Yeah, it plays very similar to the Nintendo version also.
Hey, Sloopy has joined us.
We've got Sloopy Malibu here.
Hey, Sloopy.
Yes.
The later levels go off though. He starts doing their own thing. I don't know if that was Doug's design or if that was Jeff's or a combination of both, but the later levels get quite different. I remember, Stevie, you remember the Mike and Kate show? They were doing reviews of every Contras game ever made for any system, and I think you were the one who pointed out to them that this one existed, if I remember correctly.
Or they might have just found my video or something like that,
Yeah. But basically, they were getting surprised when they started getting the late levels. Like, this isn't what the Nintendo version does. And then the ending scene, when you're actually finishing it off, is completely different than any other Contras game out there. And they were quite surprised and tickled by that one. So they actually have a video if you guys want to see the playthrough right from beginning to end, to when you win the game and get the credits scrolling up the screen. You can look up their channel on YouTube.
Was it an official port? Like, was it a licensed version?
No,
it's a clone.
It's like I said, the levels get quite different. So it's a clone for the first level. The first level is pretty well identical to the Nintendo version, but after that, it starts getting more and more different. So,
well, third party versus official, I guess, is a better answer to the question.
Yeah,
right. It's a third party. And from what I remember, I only played it a couple times. I actually discovered this game by listening to the Coco Crew podcast. I remember Neil did a game review on it and talked it up. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. I had to try it. And I did it, but from what I remember, I don't know if some of the power-ups don't work or something, like when you go to switch weapon.
You only can have the machine gun power-up. The other power-ups are there, but they don't do anything.
Okay.
They just give you points.
That looks like something that was incomplete in the game.
Yes.
There's a few things, like when Jeff Steidl took it over, basically Glenn just said, get it as close, finish as much as you can. We'll just want to get it out the door. And there's a couple things. One, the power-ups, they didn't finish those. And number 2, Jeff was actually producing this kind of in a vacuum at his own place, and he finished it off without having another player to play test it with. So the 2-player simultaneous version actually has some bugs every once in a while. It'll get locked up, like the graphics will stop, the music will keep playing, and it actually does lock up. I've hit that myself playing against my brother and some friends. So a word of warning for those trying the 2-player simultaneous, there is some bugs in there. And Jeff said, as I did manage to get a hold of him years and years ago, and he had said that he had nobody to play test with, even see if those bugs existed. So,
unfortunate.
What's this friends you're talking about, Curtis? I don't know that word.
We'll get into that when we get into the Tim and AJ bits later on.
But that is, that was what was kind of neat about video games of the past is that if you were going to play with another person, they physically had to be there, and you both sat on the same couch or in the same room or something, and so you really had that connection of playing together. I mean, now it's all online and it's still good, but there was something neat about literally sitting next to your friend playing a game, either cooperatively or competitively, and I think
you could reach over and knock the joystick out of the hand if they're doing too good.
So we've lost that human element a little bit now in our multiplayer. How many times you got to shoot that damn thing before it goes away? Like,
you have to kill the two cannons first.
Oh, okay.
So
I was gonna say he's been shooting the crap out of that one. And it's not dying.
I have to say myself, like there's certain techniques at certain parts of each of the levels you use that you can make it much better chance that you don't die and get through the level faster. And I'd forgotten quite a few of them. There's a few when I played on the live stream for a bit too. There's a few I only figured out at the very end of the live stream. Oh, that's how you do it. I totally forgot. And, so I probably could do a bit better now. But I know Paul Thayer, who joined us on the stream, has actually completed the game. Obviously, Mike Kate. There's a few others that have completed the game as well. I've only gotten up to level 4, and I think there's 6 levels from what I remember Paul telling me.
I made it to level 3, but then forgot to post my score for that, so it didn't happen.
And the game does suffer some slowdowns on. You see the top right corner where I was playing. You can see the flame shooting things.
Yeah. You get
the game starts to slow down there because it's processing a fair bit of stuff. There's just constant sound effects.
Does it work better on the 6309? The less slow down?
The 6309. They only discovered the secrets about it about 8 months before the game got released, and I don't think Jeff was keeping up with that kind of stuff, so he didn't do anything with the 639, unfortunately.
Okay, but does it suffer from the same slowdown, or does the 639?
Because the 639 to have an advantage, you'd have to use extra instructions or turn on native mode, which this game does not.
Yeah. Okay.
Someday I'll have to patch it and see.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because you're not doing anything, are you?
That could be another project I'm behind on. Awesome.
Yeah, just put it on your to-do list.
So, Sloopy, did you want to talk?
Hey, Doug Maston just joined us in the live chat. So he says, "Hey guys, I only worked on the first 3 levels. Level 1 was 100%. Level 2 was about 60 to 80%. Level 3, I only did background graphics. But thanks to Jeff and Glenn for getting the game out the door. Also, it was based on the Nintendo version. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's a technical tour de force. It's got really advanced graphics with hardware scrolling stuff, but it's also, like I mentioned before, got the best sound. It's got really good sound effects in addition to multi-track with percussion style music, etc. So it was
utterly.
It's one of the most advanced games. Now, actually, since Doug's in the chat, I was wondering, one thing that Sundog also sold was a sound editing system. I was wondering if he used that in particular to do some of the sound effects, or did he come up with his own stuff?
Okay, we'll see if he responds to that. But no, it looks really cool. It's really impressive. It is
definitely one of those ones you can show off to people and say,
yeah,
this is what the Coco 3 is capable of. Yeah.
Destroy their misconceptions of the color computer.
Right.
Kind of like Donkey King did, in the original Coco 1.
Right. It's so funny. It's like even now, this is the great thing about YouTube is that once you throw something out there, it's a resource forever. I just got a few comments on a Donkey King video I did, a couple years ago, because that was, Donkey King was our first game, and I think I was doing a live stream there trying to break a certain score, and if somebody found that video and commented on it and was reminiscing on their memories of Donkey King, so.
That power up works. That's the invincibility one, which I totally forgot what it did. It makes you immortal for a little bit.
So you did say yes. Sample the sounds from Nintendo.
Okay, so you probably use Soundtracks then, which was the Sundog sound editor program they sold.
I don't think you can do the Konami code on that, though.
There was jokes about that during the stream.
Yeah.
So. And even if you could, which is the A button and which is the B button?
Right. And what I love some of the memes now too. You see where they show that code, and then you see the little clip from the guy from Star Wars when they're trying to fly the Death Star. It's like, well, it's an older code, sir, but it does check out. So it's just like.
For the stream, I said that I had an A and B button. Mm-hmm. That's because when I was playing, I was using this controller.
Oh, the actual Nintendo
which
style?
Is it's a reproduction Nintendo style in black with USB.
Okay.
So I have an A and B button, but it didn't work. Still didn't work.
Is it one button only on the Coco 3?
No, it uses
No,
both
two.
buttons.
Uses
It's
both
both buttons. So there's
Okay.
fire and the jump button. So
Fire and jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I had to use this instead of my usual joystick, because my usual joystick only has one button.
So Sloopy, did you want to talk a little bit about the live show?
Sure, if you want me to.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. We had what was it? Up to 7 people playing at once. We had actually people playing other games also, which was great fun. We had actually demonstrations of Coco Bon by Mr. Paul, and the showing of Nick Morentis' new game.
World premiere of Nick Morentis' new game.
World premiere.
Of his upcoming game, not 0 Hour.
Yeah, of his upcoming game. We also got to see 0 Hour be beaten.
Yeah.
Wow, I missed out. I missed out on a good action-packed Thursday night. Holy crap!
Yeah, see, this is what happens, Stevie, when you don't show up to the live show.
Yeah, well, I guess people figure I'm not there, so let's do something cool. So I need to keep not showing up, or nothing cool will happen. So.
By the way, Doug Maston in the chat says I did have a cheat code, but I'm not sure if they kept it in.
Ah.
Oh, let's find out.
So we on the CoCoTALK Game On Live challenge, we live by the there is no wrong way to Coco. So
okay,
you can play any game, any Coco game you'd like on the show.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can find Nick's world premiere here.
You can even play Predator.
Yes,
if you would like to, we were talking about
that
doing
is
that.
That is one way, that is one great way. That is
or you
one
can
wrong
beat
way.
yourself over the head with a brick, which is the same effect.
So
yes, beating yourself over the head with a brick is a viable alternative to playing Predator.
Yeah, you may want to close your ear flaps if you do play it, but.
Now, I will mention the title page here is already changed, and the game is getting renamed already too from Nick. So
yeah, this is Nick's world premiere of his upcoming game.
So there's been changes already, as Nick can probably attest to.
Yeah, it's always it's a work in progress. It's dynamic. Okay, here we go. Ripped off. I mean,
it's all based off of the random number generator you have hidden in your basement, right?
Yeah, that's right.
RGB. Oh, Frogger SG. Programming by Nicholas Morentis. May 2022. Ooh, I like that. I like the little @ signs there.
Yeah, but that
wasn't on purpose.
Okay.
It's from the future.
Yeah. They're little frogs.
Look at that. Look at that. Colorful high score there. Very colorful.
Nick, this game is going to be for the 1, 2, and 3, right?
Yeah. For a 16K Coco 1, 2, and 3, yeah. So it's basically just a arcade version of Frogger, but it's being designed, of course, to work on the Coco 1, 2, and 3 semi-graphic modes. So you get color on a color computer.
I love it. I love what you're doing in the semi-graphic space. You're doing so many cool things.
While playing 2-voice music.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So is it like a split screen where it'll pan up when you get to the water part? Okay.
Because the resolution of semi-graphics is so low, it was either a case of cram the Frogger game with some pretty scrawny, ugly graphics, or expand it out and make use of the lower res.
Oh, yeah.
So I've split up the freeway scene as one screen, and I haven't got it in yet, but the river scene will come up after that.
Okay.
Although I thought I might even put a third brand new.
Oh, another layer, huh? Bonus.
So there will be 3 screens. Is the plan at the moment. So,
maybe you can make it where you have to dodge copyright strikes and hate sites and other spyware.
Yeah, well that's right. Who knows? That might be coming.
Yeah, Frogger 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
Oh, and Buck Owen says that the Odyssey 2, which was Magnavox's console, and the ZX81 version also did a split screen. So that's cool.
Yeah, because of the low res, it would look ugly trying to get nice graphics in such a small space. So if you get low res, just
make everything large.
And then we also had some people. We also had some people playing 0 Hour,
practicing up for when it's a game on channel.
Look at that. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I need to order my copy.
On that note, we are actually changing the date for when this is going to be the Game On Challenge. I had said before it would be for the April 23rd show, but because Terry Steen is going to be on that week, I will be choosing a Terry Steen game to end that week. So 0 Hour is now going to be for the week ending on April 30th. So you have an extra week to order it.
Okay.
So get onto Nick's site and order it, because this is a really fun game.
Order a digital copy and have it in your inbox.
Yeah.
And
I promise not to book anybody on the 30th. I kind of forgot about the date. Kenneth already said.
In truth, I just moved it so that I'd have more time to practice.
Also, on a side note, the weekend of the 23rd and 24th of April, that is VCF East in Wall, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we have anybody in that area that can maybe bring us some live footage from the event. Oh, you will be there?
Yes, I will be there.
Okay.
I will work. I'm working on a couple things in the sidelines to be able to stream live from there.
Okay, cool. That would be great to be able to have a remote from VCF East. Nice. Look forward to hearing more about that, Mr. Malibu.
Yep.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. And Nick, thank you.
I have a question.
Brian has a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yep. For Contras, it's a 3-disc. How do you set that up on the SD or SD1? You know what I'm talking about.
The Coco SDC. You
mount the directory with Shift M,
yeah,
and then you run it, and it'll prompt you for the next disk. You tap the button on the top, and you'll see the light flash. It'll flash twice if you've selected disk 2, 3 times if you selected disk 3. So you can just go through them as it's needed.
You have to make sure you want the folder. And
you mount the folder, not an image.
Not the image.
As a shameless plug, I do have a video on how to do that on my channel that is revisiting my Coco SDC.
Shameless.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
The directions said disc 1 was a flippy. I was having a hard time getting that SD card in the other way around.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
So in order for that to work, though, and if you're getting it from an archive, it should be that way. But the file names need to be consecutive, so it needs to be like contra1.dsk, contra2.dsk, contra3.dsk. So you have to have 3 consecutive file names in the same folder. And at that point, if you mount the folder and not the image, then you can flip through. There's Mrs. Delvaux is here. We have.
No.
Oh
no.
We need to spotlight this. We have Ron's better half. You're muted. We can't hear you. Unmute, Ron.
She knows where the garage is.
No, that's
hey,
where
Ron.
she sent him to.
Say hi, hon.
Hey, nice to see you.
She has to leave. I asked her to sit with me just for a little while, just a little bit.
So you're just visiting Ron in the garage while he's in timeout?
Geez, Ron, you should be giving her a microphone so we can
welcome,
all hear
Elaine.
her.
Oh, here.
That's the usual reaction to that's the usual reaction we get to an interview request.
Yep.
How are we going to recruit more women into this hobby if they just keep running away?
Yeah, that's the way it is.
So I guess this is a compliment. I guess this is a compliment, Ron.
Kiss goodbye.
Tie them down.
Bye-bye. She's going bye-bye.
Okay, I guess this is a compliment, but Buck Owen says, is that Ron's daughter?
That's a good one.
Ron, you dog.
How?
Been married 47 years.
47 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Straight from the cradle, huh?
And she hasn't killed you yet?
No. I wake up every morning thinking, no kitchen knife.
Is that a plotter behind you, Ron?
She's a strong woman.
And it is a plotter. Yeah. Because
Ron plotter.
Ron does graphics and stuff.
Yep.
Oh, the plot thickens then, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So
I'll get her back here later, when she gets brave.
Okay. That was cool. We have a sighting. There we go. So, Ken, are you ready to tell us what next week's game of the week?
I certainly can.
Yes.
This will be a game for the Coco 1, 2, or 3.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh.
Crystal Castles.
Crystal Castles.
Now, I did notice playing it on the Coco 3 that the starting screen is screwed up.
Yeah, it's a higher semi-graphics mode.
Yeah, it's higher semi-graphics mode. So, but you don't have to do anything on that screen except just hit enter to get past it. There's no selecting on that screen. So,
I liked this game in the arcade. I was probably using a similar engine to the Marble Madness game too, but it was really cool. This kind of isometric, thing, and kind of a 3D where you can go inside and behind things, and it was a really cool game that you hadn't really seen anything like this before or after that I can recall. Anyways, a little bit of a Pac-Man element because you had to run around and basically just pick up all the things off the floor, so clear a maze. But it was a 3D moving maze. You had elevators that went up and down. You had different types of enemies.
You could jump over things.
So yeah, it was. I would dare to say it was an innovative game. Obviously, the arcade version was very colorful, great background music and sound effects, and then we have the Coco version that's pretty good for a Coco game, as far as sound goes. But that one's probably ripe for some palette hacking if you're running it on a Coco 3, because the kind of hard burgundy and navy blue colors don't lend themselves well to that fantasy setting of this game. But
hey, you just got to wear sunglasses.
there is a hacked version of it out. Like, I know the original version was all P mode 3, but there is a hacked version that actually kicks in artifacting colors on some of the levels.
Oh, okay.
Flip it around. I think that might even be the version on the archive. I think the patch version's on there, but the original did not do that.
Right.
Also, I'll mention for those of you who want to kind of see what the game is, the Amigos actually just did on, I think it was the first or second episode of their Atari ST gaming podcast from this past month or two, actually did the review of the Atari ST version of Crystal Castles. So if you want to get a bit of background on the game and how it plays, you can watch that as well.
All right. Very cool. And what's the color computer version called? Is it called Crystal Castle? But with a K? Is that what it was?
It's Crystal Castles.
It's spelt differently. Like Crystal spelled Crystle, I think, instead of AL.
Okay.
So
because that completely negates any copyright. So
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. If you have the big file from the archive, there's two things on there. There's Crystal with an AL and Crystal with an LE. It's the LE one.
Okay. Fun game. I enjoyed playing that game back in the day. It does seem to have most of the levels, and the levels look and play very faithful to the arcade. Great Atari arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right, what else is going on? Do we want to do game on news now before we go into newsy?
We can, though. One thing we didn't really touch, did anybody have any tips and tricks for playing Contra?
Tips and tricks for playing Contra. Yes, true.
Tips and tricks. Going along the bottom is a lot easier to shoot up at things than shooting down at them.
Okay.
Going along the on the first level, going through the water.
My big tip is there are certain places where it looks like it's really difficult to get through. There are certain tricks you can do, and once you learn those, you just keep doing those over and over. Like on the first level, there's one part when you're getting close to the base you got to destroy. There's this one spinning gun in the middle, and I was jumping over it, getting shot every time. And then I finally remembered, actually, you're supposed to stop on a platform and duck down to the left before you even get to it, shoot it off, and then it's no problem getting through there. But I spent the first 9/10 of the stream doing it wrong every time, and I die once, 2, 3, 4 times trying to get past it. So there's a bunch of little tricks like that. You'll learn like a certain jumping or timings when you're on the later levels with the little things coming down from the roof, and there's various, or the flames and everything else. There's certain things that you'll kind of learn because the maze is fixed. It never changes. The patterns for where the guns shoot and stuff is pretty constant too. So once you figure those out and learn those, then you'll start getting further and further, and it becomes easier and easier.
Mm-hmm.
David Krager says, I switched the 2 buttons around on his Gravis analog joystick. So he, I guess, flip-flopped the A and B buttons that work better for him.
Yeah, I would have done that too, because it was a little, what would normally be the fire button was the jump button.
Oh, there's one thing that came up during the stream I should mention. It was crashing for a couple of people. Wouldn't even finish loading properly. And I tried it, like I've got 2 Coco 3s here set up. I got both have 2 megs of RAM. And originally we thought maybe that was the issue. But it actually worked on my regular Coco 3 2 meg. But when I tried it on my Gimme X, it did crash. So there's a compatibility problem with the Gimme X. Now my Gimme X, I haven't got the latest firmware update on it, just because I haven't had time to do it. So if anybody has a Gimme X and tries it, and who's got the latest firmware updates, let us know either in Discord or by email or whatever else, or even in the chat right now if you happen to be in there. I'm just curious if that is still a problem with the latest version of the firmware that particular game doesn't run, because we should let Ed know so we can try to track it down and fix it.
Yeah, good to
Didn't
know.
ever give me X.
Good to know. All right, so next
Yeah.
week's game is Crystal Castles. Tips and tricks. Any other tips and tricks on there?
On the second level, when you get that one power up that gives you the immortality for a while, you can literally jump. Even if a flame's shooting out, you'll catch that immortality, and then you can actually blast through the flames. The flames can go right through. You just keep going, so you can actually skip that whole intricate timing you got to do to try to jump the platforms without getting hit by flames. So I'd totally forgotten what that does. I just thought it was some regular points thing. It wasn't a real thing, but that actually is one of the 2 power-ups that actually do work. So definitely do that. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. And after that, like I said, it's just basically learning the timings between things. And also be aware the game does slow down on some of those flame screens, so you have to adjust your reactions too.
Also, if you die in one of those sections like the flame thing, which I very often was, you're invulnerable for the first little bit when you start. So just run through as much of it as you can when you're invulnerable. And you can actually, if you die at the beginning of the flames, you can make it almost all the way through on your new guy as he's still invulnerable. So that's what I was doing.
And Scott Cooper said at the end of level 2, you can just keep killing the dudes coming at you to rack up a huge score. I did not submit any of those scores for the game on, though. Okay. So if you want to
he showed, I think, a screenshot of like almost 500,000 points. Doing that, you can just basically milk the game for points at that point. There's no timer on the game, which is nice. You can take as much time to study the screen and figure where you're going as long as you're not getting killed. The other thing on the second level too, there's also a few spots where the flamethrowers, like Paul Thayer said, he uses this technique where if you die on the bottom of the screen, when you get relaunched for your life, you come up at the top. So you actually get to skip trying to go past all the flames. He said sometimes that's just easier than trying to get all the time.
That's
just
what I was
sacrifice
doing.
a life and go.
I would die at the bottom, respawn at the top, and then run through the rest of it as quick as I could.
Yeah, and you avoid that whole row of flamethrowers, so it's actually pretty good technique.
Okay, so Buck Owens was asking a question about Crystal Castles in another game called Ice Castles, wanting to know if they were the same. And he says that it appears that Crystal Castles was released as Ice Castles by Spectral for the Dragon 32. Sorry to cut you off, Sloopy.
If Spectral had bought the rights from Thundervision or it had made an arrangement with Thundervision to resell it, that might be true. Because Thundervision didn't last long. They had Crystal Castles, Return of the Jedi, and I think that's the only games they had. And they only advertised in Rainbow for like maybe half a year, and they kind of disappeared, so that might have happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
I haven't looked at Ice Castles, so sorry.
Let Sloopy speak, for God's sake, at this point. Go ahead, Sloopy.
Yeah. All these.
Okay, I'll let Sloopy speak.
Where's my mute button? Go ahead, Sloopy.
With all these wonderful tips and tricks for levels 2 and 3, for those of us, you have any tips and tricks for level 1?
Ken mentioned one. Go along the bottom.
Go along the bottom and shoot up. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're getting those spinning guns, if you go just a little bit off center underneath it, it won't hit you. So you can just waste on it till it's gone. That'd be another. Later on the far right, when you're getting those 2 cannons shooting at you, if you just edge your way over till just when the cannons show up on the screen, you can go back to a platform on the left screen, duck down, and you can just shoot them with impunity and get rid of them. They'll never hit you. So then you can just watch up and blow up the final thing.
Yeah, because some people didn't get past level 1. I'm not saying it was necessarily me. I'm just saying some people.
Mm-hmm. Not mentioning any names.
No.
Okay.
Asking for a friend.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Ice Castles, Crystal Castles is our game next week. Any more tips and tricks, or we're ready to go into Game On News?
I think that's all I had for tips and tricks, unless somebody else has any.
All right. Do we want to interrupt Sloopy a few more times before we go into Game On News? Anyone?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Sloopy, hang on. But I'm not going to bother.
Okay. All right. Curtis Boyle, regale us with the Game On News, please, sir.
Okay. Let's make sure I got the right Windows set up here. Yeah, there we go. Hey, you guys seen that?
Yes. Across the Rubicon, Arc Royal Games.
Yeah, so this there's a guy named Guillaume Alemany. I hope I'm pronouncing his right. I have no idea. But he's been contacting me the last couple of weeks asking a lot of questions about some of the Arc Royal games, because he actually has the Wargaming Scribe, which basically goes and reviews almost in chronological order all the different types of war games that came out on microcomputers starting in the late 70s. in episode 55, he's actually hit his first Coco one. And for those of you who remember Arc Royal games from Rainbow, they used to have full page ads, and they had a ton of games. The earlier ones were all like semi-graphics, low res text based ones, and then later on they got the P-Mode 4, etc. But they were especially known for their war games. They did a couple occasional strategy games and arcade games, but mostly this kind of thing. And these are games that take several hours to play. They're based a lot on like the old Avalon Hill games and the board games and stuff like that. And they take a lot of knowledge of history and tactics and this kind of thing too that I just don't really have time to do myself. So I have these on my site, and I played them for a few minutes, just enough to get a bit of a feel. But I've never really played them to completion because this isn't my style of game. So he was asking me questions like how to get it to run properly in a Coco emulator and all this kind of stuff. And then he actually did a complete full review, and he's reviewing all the different parts of it. And there's two versions. There's Across the Rubicon and then Rubicon 2, which later became Across the Rubicon 32K, because the original version only took 16K, and they added a bunch of extra stuff to it. Game save load was one thing, and they added some more tactical units, etc. But he goes into a very deep dive on how the whole game plays, explaining what the different icons and stuff mean on the text screen. There's a little bit of graphical stuff there too. Goes into some of the strategies, going kind of how to play the game itself.
Wow, this
fully.
is an extremely deep dive for sure.
Yeah, and his whole blog thing that he does for all these games is like this. So if you want to learn how to play war games, this is great stuff.
Oh, he's got it as an animated GIF or something where it's actually moving around, huh? Or is it an embedded video? Because before you could go scroll up a little bit more. That one right there.
Yep,
It's the screen's updating. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, man, that's really cool.
Anyway, like I said, he did a really good deep dive, and then he does kind of a review. Here he kind of puts some screens together so you can see all the units and stuff that you're in control of. Obviously, the Coke screen isn't that tall.
Oh, but later on, he actually... I turn my monitor sideways.
VGA, I guess, yeah.
I turn my monitor
VGA,
sideways, and I get a lot more vertical resolution at that point. So,
my TV doesn't have the feed on the side there for the end. So. And then he does a little bit of the review here of like this is when they first started advertising some of the Arc Royal stuff.
You know what this is? This is like what your website wants to be when it grows up.
No, my website's never going to get this detailed on games. That's not the purpose of my website.
But doesn't that give you an idea though? Like on your, not only should you show screenshots, but what if you could show like some of the adverts and stuff too in there? That would be kind of cool,
Like I like this here. He goes, final rating, well designed but obsolete, because newer war games obviously do things totally different.
Right.
Would recommend to a modern player? No. Would recommend to a designer? No. Now he does review. Here's one of the ads for all the other types of games they had going up at the same time. And then he starts reviewing by different specs. Like here he does immersion, which he says is terrible.
Oh, you mean like hashtags and brackets are not immersive?
Clarity of rules and outcomes. He does a review of that. Goes into how the keyboard was set up, obviously differently than it is now.
Yeah.
Rating acceptable, which is a feat given the nature of the game and the limitations of the Coco. So he does give it some props.
Okay.
Systems, he said, actually was quite good. He was kind of surprised, especially the third 2K version, which added a bunch of things that the original 16K version didn't have. And he said, actually, this is pretty good. This is kind of rivals the modern stuff. And then, scenario design and balancing, very poor. So he's doing a very honest take on it. He's not trying to hype anything up. He's not trying to just shoot it down because it's, on a 40-year-old computer. And he goes, well designed but obsolete is the final review thing.
Okay.
But he's planning on covering a lot more of the Arc Royal games. I'm really looking forward to this because I don't know these games well enough to do a proper review myself or even give tips of how to even play it, never mind how to play it well.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to his hitting these other ones here. So he may be asking me some more questions and stuff here. And I've got a fair number of the Arc Royal games I actually only put on in the last couple of years, screenshots and stuff like that. So I'm glad he can do a proper review, unlike me.
There you go. Looks
so
good, though.
if you guys are into war games, or if that's into the war games and wants to try the Coco versions of it, then I would pick the war game and scrap.
And what I would even add to that is because I'm not sure that I'm into war games, but I probably wouldn't mind reading this to know all I need to know about the game without actually having to waste the time to play it. He's already gone through the whole trouble to dissect it and explain it. I can just read that and have it spoon fed to me and be like, okay, cool. I love it. That's great. I'm not going to play it, but now I know everything I could ever know about this game. So,
yeah. Like he tried the 16K version. Like these games take hours to play, and he was going like, you make a mistake or you get distracted with something else, and you shut your emulator down and have to reboot for a Windows update or whatever else. I mean, you're kind of screwed. So he was really happy that the second version, which was like I said, just renamed back to Across the Rubicon again, and just called 32K version, that they added this game save and load. So he's covers that kind of stuff too, goes through the ads, etc. He wants me to give him a copy. I do have a copy of one of the Arc Royal catalogs. I have to find it again because I typed in some text from it a couple of years ago that I've got on my site, kind of the history of Arc Royal itself. That's on my site.
Okay.
And he wants to get an actual scan of the catalog itself, and I took a quick look, couldn't find it, so I just gotta hunt it down and I'll send it to him. And actually, I gotta check to see did I upload the archive? I don't think I did, because I should send it there too, obviously, if it's missing. Anyway, if you're into war games, this is definitely a good one to pick, and I definitely am looking forward to his future ones. He's kind of doing all microcomputers together in chronological order.
Okay.
So I know like Avalon Hill themselves actually made one for the Coco called VC, Viet Cong, which is a P-Mode 3 style graphical version, which was cross-platform. It's on the Atari 400, 800, it's on the Apple II, etc. But there's a Coco version of that as well. I haven't looked across his site enough to know if he hits one that's cross-platform. Does he go through all of them, or does he just pick one and go? So I'll review that a little
Nice
bit too.
to see a Coco game getting some love, though.
Yeah, and actually he's quite fascinated by Philip Keller, because Philip did almost all the war games.
Okay.
Here for the
Curtis,
Coco,
did you ever see any of the war game stuff that my friend did, Paul at Sportswear? I think.
Yes, War Game Designer, War Game Designer 2, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen them. I don't think I've got them on my website yet. Now, you know him?
Paul, yeah. He used to be my wife's boss. I bought my first color computer from him for $300.
Are you still in contact with him? I'd love to have him on the show to talk about this.
I see him now and then. Yeah, his daughter is a TV personality in California. She does.
Take him out to lunch and make him an offer he can't refuse and get him on the show.
Yeah, seriously, I'd like to have him on the show for an interview, because I'd love to go through that kind of stuff. I don't know this genre well enough to really ask intelligent questions, but I would love to interview him about developing. Because did he do some other things for Sportswear?
Yeah, he did a disc. He made a way to copyright discs, like,
copy protect them, you mean?
Yeah, and he had Super Disc, where you can go and look through. It's like a peeper program that you can look through a disc and change the.
So did he do the other games that Sportswear sold? Like they also did stuff like Barbarian Quest and.
Yeah, that was him. He was Sportswear. That was him.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because they did some arcade games too, so it'd be pretty interesting to cover all that. Yeah, definitely see if you'd like to come on.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
And we'll count that as you getting the interview, not me, in case we're still keeping tally.
No, it's okay.
Next up, Todd Wallace, Lord Dragon, in our Discord chat, has released his first Coco 3 game ever. Now, he's released tons of utilities and music playing stuff, including stuff for Nitrous 9. Using some of the hardware, sound cards and stuff we got, like the OPL3 chip that's built into the Mega Mini MPI by Zipster Zone. So he's also been working on his very own Coco 3 graphics game and assembly language, which he's never done before. And it's taken him 3 years because he's just been gradually learning everything here. And he did a little video to kind of introduce the game and the development of it. And it's 4 minutes long. Stevie, are you okay with me playing the whole thing? Or
that's up to you, Curtis.
Or how about the rest of the panel? Is 4 minutes too long?
No.
Okay.
If it's news,
isn't it cool? He has that little thing on there. That
the QR code.
Yeah. Has anybody else used that?
Matchy did something with it before, I remember.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, to see a high res one, it's very cool.
Yeah, it does work. I mean, it's just an encoding, and then you scan on your phone and jump to the website.
I wonder how he put it on the screen there.
They're pretty easy to draw. There's actually a technique. There's like the little line-up squares you can see in the 3 corners that tells it how to do it, and then you just embed data. You can create that for free stuff on a PC, and then you just grab the graphic and throw it on, or you could even figure out how to actually draw it literally. I've done actual 2D barcodes like the standard vertical stripe ones on the Coco before, because I have a book on how that's all set up.
Neat.
Google Chrome, you can just take the URL and say create QR code.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
save it as
Yeah.
an image and scan it into your Coco.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, if everybody's okay with it, I'll play the whole thing.
Play the whole
It kinda
thing.
gives us a little background.
Hey guys, so 3 years in the making, my first real Coco game is ready to go out into the world, and I just wanted to show you just a quick demo of it. So I wanted to use real hardware just because, I don't know, it's got a better vibe to it. So there you go. Click.
Oh, I just want to mention too, we're lining up an interview with Todd too. That'll be coming up. We haven't got the dates hammered out yet, but
turn it up
Maybe,
a little.
it's based off of.
I got
a
it maxed
game,
out right now.
I played a
Okay.
lot in the 90s on Windows and whatnot. It's a block style game. You'll see in a sec. But I felt like getting fancy and put a QR code there. So you can scan that if you so desire. So this is like a mouse pointer based game, and because of that, I wanted like the best cursor performance you could get. So I incorporated the software based high resolution joystick mouse driver developed by Sockmaster, Nick Marentes, and Robert Gold, I believe. And yeah. But if you're using an emulator or for whatever reason you're having issues, if you hit the space bar, you can select standard, Coco joystick polling, which won't be as precise, but it's good enough to play. So this is what it looks like. So it's pretty straightforward. I got a top 10 scores list that you can compete against, and it does save to disk. On a file, I think it's I forget what it's called, but there's a file that'll be on the disk image that it saves to. But basically, you have to click on 2 common colors next to each other, and then I'm doing this with one hand, so sorry. So they drop, and they drop, and you get more points the more blocks you can eliminate at once. And the objective is to clear the entire screen, which is actually not that easy.
At first, I thought this was kind of like Flood It, where you had to like kind of take over the colors, but it's like a hybrid of Flood It and Tetris.
Yeah,
which
it's really cool.
Kind of a happy coincidence. If I just redraw the board every single time, it kind of looks animated. So it's good to have goals. So just for the sake of the demo, I have a cheat code which will simulate winning or losing. So this is what it looks like if you lose. You get a flash, no valid moves are left. It creates a little pop-up, which I'm actually really proud of. It captures the screen behind it, stores it in memory, and when you're finished, it'll restore underneath. So now, no valid moves, so I am Todd. So you punch that in. There you go, I'm on the board. I'm above Sam Dog. So then play again, it said save to disk, so you can play again. If you hit no, it'll just bring you back to the, actually I think it just stays on the screen. You can do whatever, but, so now if you win, this is kind of what it looks like. You get green, you're proclaimed the legend, and actually if you're on the high score, then you'll also get to save there as well. But, yeah, see, so it just stays there. Hit break, abort game, yes or no. And then I have an info screen here. If you hit F1, you can kind of read all that text. It explains about the save file, high resolution, and story. But yeah, so it should be available. There'll be a disk image if you guys want to download it. Appreciate any feedback and have some fun. Happy Cocoing.
So it looks really good. You've actually played it a bit there, Stevie?
No, I have not. But I just was noticing in the gameplay, because I had only seen just the static screenshot. I hadn't seen the gameplay yet, and I know a lot of other people did comment on Facebook on it, but I remember some people saying, is it like Flood It? And Flood It, the screen looks similar, and you have to click on colors, but then that color will take over the other colors, and the object is to like basically paint in the whole screen with one color to clear the screen. This one looked like that, but ended up being a little bit like Tetris, so you kind of have to match, and then they fall. So that's actually cool. Yeah. It looks neat, so I want to download it and play it.
Yeah, it does look neat. And Nick, I was going to ask you because he's actually using the software high res routine, and I know you guys published that quite a while ago. And I guess there's a few projects now that have actually used it now.
Yeah.
This one here, Color Max 3 Deluxe by Eric Averlex, used it as well. So it looks like your routine's finally getting used out in the wild.
Yeah, it's good to see it in action.
Have you had a chance to try this one, Nick?
No, I haven't. No.
Are
I
you
don't
too busy
play
doing your
games.
Frogger clone?
I don't play games. I just sit there and write them.
I tried it. I got on the game level.
Yeah.
It was fun. You really have to think when you're clicking them to try and get as much as you can out. And I wasn't successful, but it was fun.
So in a way, it's almost like a combination of like Bejeweled and Tetris, because Bejeweled you have to match colors and certain patterns and stuff, and then Tetris things kind of fall. So yeah, that's neat though.
Yeah, I think he mentioned this is actually based on was it a phone game or something? I can't remember what he said, but yeah, there's some other game that it's based
and
on.
and John Strong does a lot of games like this too, and these are actually fun kind of games. It doesn't have to be an arcade game. It doesn't have to have high speed graphics to be fun. I actually enjoyed Flood It, and Flood It was actually done in Semi-Graphics 4 mode, so it's like as low res as it gets, but it's just a fun game to play. We need more games like this where just casual gameplay, and like this would be a good game on challenge game. It's free.
I was just going to ask that
because
it
has a high score table. It's casual. You don't have to be a super fast reflexer, multi-button, high-res joystick kind of guy. So.
Yeah, and like I said, Todd has agreed to be on. He's just that he's in the midst of doing a move in the beginning of May, so he's kind of getting ready for that and everything else. So we'll line it up hopefully in late May somewhere.
And then we can maybe make it the game the week
game
before.
On challenge.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this too. Man. Oh, cool.
It's a nicely presented game. Nice colors.
Yeah.
Well laid out.
Yeah.
Simple, and it uses my high res.
Yeah. It just needs the trash can too. So
that's right. That's all right. His next game.
He went and screwed up and he put the QR code instead of the trash can. That's the only issue. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Anyway, it's available for download on Facebook. I think he's already uploaded to the archive, though I haven't checked lately just to make sure. But like he said, he's looking for feedback. He's active in our Discord as Lord Dragon. So if you want to send him some feedback on the game, please do.
Congratulations, Todd.
Yeah, and thanks for all the other stuff too. Like we've been including some of his OPL3 music players and stuff.
And the IBM fonts.
Yeah, the IBM font. A ton of stuff he's been doing under Nitrous 9, so he's a big contributor to that. The EOU project as well, and a lot of his stuff's already on there as default installs. So thanks for that as well. We'll talk to him about all that stuff in the interview.
Yeah, he did system info.
System info.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
The only fault I can see is that his monitor is missing the door.
Don't they all come that way? That's the only way I've ever seen them.
That's a standard feature.
Yeah. That's right. You got to pay extra for the door.
That's what a Coco user looks like.
If you still have a door in your CM8, you're obviously not using your Coco enough. That's all.
Right.
All right. Well, I have two if my doors are on.
Okay. Next article.
Hey, next up. Yeah, so Fabrizio has done some Coco stuff before, and this is his cross-platform. He calls it cross-lib. It's a cross-platform library that runs on about 30 retro machines. He does have graphic support and stuff for it, but he's been asking a lot of questions lately on MC10 support because he has not had that before. And he's actually got it all working. He had some issues, getting the keyboard and sound and stuff to work. So he's actually released his standard 5 games he's got now: Cross Snake, Cross Sword, Cross Bomber, Cross Shoot, and Cross Chase. Have all got MC10 releases out now, and this compiles down to semi-assembly language type stuff, so they're pretty quick. He is working on getting the 128 by 96 4-color graphics mode, which is supported in all MC10s, to work with his library as well. So expect some updates to these same 5 games coming out later that will include some graphics. So we've been talking about the fact that the MC10's been getting a lot of machine language gaming love lately. Both from the compiler that Greg Dion has done for basic compiling.
The Japanese.
The Japanese Inufito. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly because they've got a C-like language that does compiling too. That they've been releasing that game Ascend we just covered recently, and now Fabrizio's got one as well now too. So there's like multiple ways to get into writing sort of assembly language type games without having to learn 683 assembly language. So he's got some screenshots. Now these are all text based as it currently stands here. As you mentioned, he's working on the actual full graphic support. Unfortunately, none of these are animated, but like this is a bombing one where you shoot down and blow up stuff on the ground. Anyway, so it's really cool. He finally got that working. So he's added another machine to his
right. And this gets back to a conversation we had, I think, last week with Ron Delvaux too. Is that ultimately game design is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And while this is using literally all just alpha text, and we don't even have fancy redefinable text without like the Coco VGA, you can still make something that's comprehensible and visual, and most importantly, hopefully fun to play. So as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, wow, this would be kind of cool to make just doing a little snake game with using O's for the body of the snake and an asterisk for the tail or the head or something like that. The number 8 for the head. It'd be so easy to do like a centipede or a snake game just using this built-in character fonts, and just do something fun. And that's usually where I begin and end. Like I'll get an idea. Oh, I wonder if I can do this. Here's an idea. Here's a proof of concept. Yes, I can do it. And then now I don't want to do it anymore because now it's work. So, but yeah.
I was just going to say, it's a good way to start development. Like if you want a proof of concept of a game without having to draw intricate graphics and get it running fast enough in the graphics mode, do this first, see if the gameplay works.
But yeah, looking at that screen right there, I'm like, you know what? I want to do a little mock-up snake game using nothing but text now, just by looking at that. Because when I see that, I'm seeing like a snake type thing, like your Snafu Tron snake type thing. So,
yeah. And I would love to see actually, people experimenting with this kind of thing. And I'd love that some of these people who are writing the compilers, et cetera, to do some Coco VGA support for the Coco stuff. Right? And Coco VGA does work in MC10 too to get the higher 64x32 and maybe see what you could do with
redesign. Yeah, because then you can redesign not only the text fonts, but then you can redesign all the semi-graphics blocks. So you have basically 8 high-res characters on a black background that you could create. That 8x12 block.
Yeah, because you use that on what was your bomb game called?
Yeah, something like Kabam.
Kabam, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some support in some of these, cross compilers and actual compilers like Greg Dion's there, just to see what can be done with that.
And the compiler doesn't really know, because at the end of the day, you're just doing semi-graphics. You can change what the semi-graphics looks like underneath the whole application with the Coco VGA. So you just write it, and then.
And there's an update for that we'll be getting to in the regular news.
I saw that. That was cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like that. I like it. Yeah. MC10 getting more love.
Next up, this is a whole whack load of stuff from Jim Gary. He's actually been kind of quiet lately. He sure made up for it this week. There's like, 7 or 8 different things he put out. So the first one here is he's got Demon's Defiance modified for use with joystick WAV sound file. Now, the MC10 doesn't have a joystick port, so I actually sent him an email because I was going, how the heck are you getting a joystick on the MC10? So he sent me an email back with a little bit of the history. So apparently, and this is from an Australian magazine, I believe. And Michael News, wasn't that Australian Rainbow or one of those?
Yeah, it's the MC10's magazine.
Oh, they had a separate magazine, or
it was, Maiko.
It was just it was a smaller magazine though.
Oh,
it was like it was like a postcard size magazine. So
yeah, and it was there to hold open the door on your mailbox. Just kidding.
Oh, Mike, actually, I'm mixed up. I don't know. Is it a magazine, or is it? They reference the MC10 as a Maiko down here,
like the mini Coco.
Yeah, I thought it was a section of one of the Australian Coco mags.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So Maiko is the name they chose for the MC10.
Like the mini Coco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this was an article published there by Greg Taylor called A Simple MC10 Joystick, and it only had left, right, and fire. And from my understanding is that basically it's using the RS-232 port to sense 2 joystick directions plus the fire button. So it's a fairly simple circuit to make, fairly easy software to write. And then in January of this year, and this is also pointed out to me by Jim Gary. I can't remember if I covered this or if I missed this before, but Mark Dusko actually implemented it. And you can see some pictures here of the thing.
Look at that.
So he's using buttons instead of joystick, but he's got left, right, and fire basically coming through this. And there's some,
so it doesn't go up and down?
No.
This particular one, no. It's just left and right. It's like more like a paddle style.
Yeah, like for Space Invader type games where you do nothing but move left and right. But still, it's better than nothing. or a keyboard extension, however you want to look at it, right? So,
yeah.
So
this is basically what it's based on, and the person that wrote this article here actually had asked Jim, could you do some games that support this so that he can test it and make sure it works properly? And that's what Jim has done. He's released that Demon's Defiance game with joystick support to support this specific thing. And if it proves to be fairly popular, it's a fairly easy thing to make from the looks of it.
Yeah, this could be a Coco Man product.
Yeah.
It would need a toggle switch though to be a full-fledged
swap
Coco
left
Man
and right
product.
or something for like left-handed game players. I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't even need to put it in a box. Make it an adapter you plug a standard Atari joystick into. It'll only work left and right, but
and a toggle switch to move up and down, just in case you have like a vertical.
Well, maybe you can have a toggle. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
So anyway, Jim's actually helping. He put out this one game that he just released.
Well,
before called
but so getting back to your first question though, did the MC10 have a joystick? The answer is yes, twice. And maybe not through Tandy, but the Alice released a memory pack that had a joystick adapter on it. And Ed Snyder had released something like an MCX a long time ago that had a joystick port and a sound chip for the MC10. I don't know if that, I don't think you can buy that now, but I remember seeing that. I remember he had something for the MC10 that looked like the MCX 128, but it had like Atari style joystick connectors on it and it had a sound chip. So it was almost kind of like a Coco PSG / MCX thing for the MC10. So
obviously that'd be doing it differently than this if it's going through the cartridge version.
Right.
How does the MC10? It's got a cassette interface, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a DAC? How does it work?
I think it works the same as the Coco's, doesn't it? Or pretty close to it.
It may be possible to do a joystick through the cassette port.
Well, no, that's going to be just a zero crossing detector to get frequencies off. So it wouldn't be helpful.
So it's not a DAC as such.
But the sound card and joystick makes sense because there's your analog all in one thing. So I could see why it worked that way.
Well, from the schematic, it looks like this thing was using the serial port, just using.
Yeah, just three state things.
Are you getting ideas, Pat?
Well, no, this is just using the serial port to tell 0, 1, and I haven't done all the math here, but.
Okay, that's neat though. So is the next tab showing what the game looks like?
I'm not sure if it's the same one. I know we've done the game before.
But this is the one that's now been done to work with the joystick. Is that what this video here is? Or no?
Yeah, this is basically now this one's called Demon's Defiance 2 here, so I'm not sure if it's the exact same game or if it was a slightly modified version of it.
Okay. Fred Skirbo.
This is converted from a Coco game originally by Fred Skirbo.
Oh, look at that. Demon Attack. It's kind of shooting through the...
Yeah, it's kind of busted out with Demon Attack combined by the looks of it.
The sound that the demon's making is definitely not your normal sound command, so that's got to be a... And the explosion was pretty cool.
Yep.
But farming points is farming points.
Oh, and
some of the walls start scrolling back. It looks like too. So
yeah,
that's kind of your timer, I guess. Or
they regenerate.
Ah, right.
Ooh, the explosions are good. Now, what is that red thing on the bottom that's moving back and forth?
I'm not sure what that is.
I wonder if that's showing you the direction the bad guy's going to go in, or...
Maybe. I know, like he mentions in the comment description below that this is originally from Rainbow Magazine, March 1985, so if somebody wants to look up and see any details, that the original article by Fred Skirbo, you can grab it from there. But he's obviously converted to the MC10, and now he's got a version that works with the joystick.
Yeah, cool.
Hardware.
All right, my ears are killing me, so let's pause.
Want me to turn it up? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So the next one he did here is Color Computer Race, which is ported from the Coco as well from an April 1985. Now, Enter Magazine I'm not familiar with. Are anybody on the panel familiar with that magazine? Or that's something
Enter Magazine, no.
The name Phil Stroffolino, I do remember that.
Is that a Commodore 64 magazine?
I have no idea.
I think Enter is, yeah. Or do they have Enter? No, I don't know.
No, it's he's converted the MC-10, obviously, and it's a racing game.
Not likely. The Commodore used the return key, at least the 64
Yeah, that's
did.
what I thought. Yeah, so.
Okay, so we got a couple of inverted brackets as our thing, and this is the normal print scroll routine, but it looks cool.
Yeah, so a nice little, quick little racing game. And then he did Turing Tumult, also from Enter Magazine from the year earlier.
Simple Turing machine for multiplication unit.
This is for the math geeks in the crowd.
Okay. Okay, Buck Owen says there was a magazine for the C64 that was called Run.
Run, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
So I have no idea what this thing is doing right now.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's moving, it's moving back and forth, and there's ones on the screen, and okay.
Okay. Anyway, if you're into... Sorry, what?
I was just going to say, I like the Transactor magazine for Commodore. It had a lot of cool hardware articles. But anyway, so it's some sort of binary game?
Or something with multiplication, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Once I saw it involved high-end math, I was out of it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Jim Gary also doesn't have time to play games as well. He just programs them too.
Well, he's been busy this time. Here's another one called Slug, which is from K-Power magazine. I don't know that one either.
That one I've got a copy of.
Slug or the magazine?
It was a K-Power. It was it covered multiple machines.
So something like Compute or something like that.
It was one of the later ones.
Yeah, it's
when
like
several of them went out of business, and they kind of combined into K-Powers. That kind of a kids-oriented magazine. So the programs were like real short.
Okay. Joey Ramone from the Ramones.
A little bit of music.
That's what I got when my Sinclair magazine went defunct.
So I just play some music and does some
Oh, so it's an animated song, huh?
Yeah.
It's like early.
Now, you said this was a kids
karaoke,
magazine,
huh?
so that might explain it.
Yeah. Okay.
Next one is another one from K-Power, but it's a graphic and sound one. I'll just play a little bit of it.
It's
for July 4th.
Oh, there we go. Fireworks.
An eagle.
It looks like the eagle from the Muppet Show at this point. Fireworks, overlapping fireworks of multitudes of colors.
All right, here's K-Power.
Okay.
It was published by Scholastic.
Here, I'll stop sharing and let you show that so that people can see what we're talking about there.
Let me spotlight you for just a second here. Hold on, Mark B. We're not ready to see you fully
Cover
yet.
up my address here.
You've been okay. K-Power.
Now look at the nerd.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like Rick Moranis.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Riptide was the popular show at the time.
Okay.
It was printed by Scholastic.
Animate with Movie Maker. Review of Pogo Joe, Beachhead Tycoon, Drool Snyder, and more. Test.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the top left corner. So it says programs for the Atom, the Apple, the Atari, C64, VIC-20, IBM, TI, Timex, and the TRS-80s. That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah,
and the heading, it may have a few problems nowadays. Hacker Heaven.
Hacker Heaven, right?
Yeah.
Enter magazine was by the Children's Television Workshop.
Oh, wow.
Sesame Street.
Okay.
Cool.
So, it was
I've never heard of this magazine. Never saw it.
So this is kind of like a highlights magazine for computer nerds.
Right.
Did it have a Goofus and Gallant segment in there by any chance? So, okay. In the beginning.
Generated art.
Oh, look at that. Sexy. Which at the time there was no home computer could have done that, so that was like high end stuff there.
Yeah.
So in fact, they even had some Model 3 programs.
So it seems like since they just mentioned TRS-80 and then it mentioned like a specific one, it's probably some like cross-platform generic type and basic type stuff, I would imagine, right? So
yeah. Well,
there's one.
Radio Shack cleanup.
Yeah, that's the Model 3, 16K RAM. Then there's a Timex one in the lower right
Okay.
corner.
Oh, so some of the code was platform specific. Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
Or at least had modifiers for the code.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's variations for the way different systems basics do stuff.
Coleco Black Hole.
Apple
IBM Black Hole.
Maker.
Oh yeah, because Coleco, what was it called? The Atom computer. It had like AppleSoft Basic, right? So
yeah. There's a Radio Shack Crystal Maker for the Coco on the right side there.
For the Coco on the right.
Yeah.
But the Atom was a Z80 processor.
So they show you probably some stock basic source code and then show you some specific changes based on a flavor of basic.
Yeah.
That's neat. That is really neat.
I remember Compute Magazine did that, but not for that many platforms.
Yeah. Assembly language secrets revealed. Ooh, Apple Scroller, Atari Scroller, Apple Flash, Atari Flash.
That's all 6502.
Yeah.
I'm taking it. They
Apple
didn't do the other
Flash and
platforms for
scrollers.
this one.
Well, let me see what's on the next page here. Yeah, there's an Atari one, and then they went into the Kangaroo program. But yeah, that's the only issue of this one I have.
That is really cool.
I never saw that one. I wonder if it was sold in Canada. Ken, did you ever see that one?
Not that I know of.
That's kind of like I had a subscription, and it just kept each one they sold us they went out of business, sold the subscriptions to another company, and they only lasted a couple of months and sold to someone else. That's when magazines were dropping like flies back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Curtis, what else we got going on in the news?
Okay. So to continue on the Jim Gary train, here's another one converted from the Sinclair ZX81 basic game called HJA Ball.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a breakout.
I think it's actually handball is kind of what
Okay,
you're going
handball,
there.
huh?
It's a single player where you just basically try not to lose the ball as it goes through.
And you're just getting points by staying alive, huh?
Yeah, I've seen there was a magazine, one of the Coco, that did this in sideways, but in a P mode 1 or something, that actually had two players and they take turns.
Okay.
Your paddle would freeze when the other player was going, and then you try to ankle it to.
Okay, that's cool.
And is this one still using that joystick of his?
No, that one was keyboard, as far as I know. I think he's only
yeah.
changed one so far to use that joystick, because they're kind of testing to make sure everything works properly. So I imagine he'll probably go back and change a bunch of them if they're friendly for just single axis joystick movement. There's another one from Enter Magazine, Cursor Foiled Again, originally by Jim Lewis in April of 1985. This is a text adventure game.
You've just been zapped by a beam of light and you find yourself shrinking and must find cursors within 20 minutes or you'll disappear completely. Bus pass, piece of gum. There are two computers here. You've used up 1 minute. You're carrying a rubber band. Wow.
There's a Enter Facebook group, Enter Magazine.
Okay, so
you're hot on the cursor's trail. Is this kind of like Hunt the Wumpus or something, or I don't know? You've used up 2 minutes. Sure. You're carrying rubber band and blue wire. So it's you're standing in front of a CRT. There is a keyhole under it. Unfortunately, you don't have the key. You go back to the Lupins, and you are carrying rubber band and blue wire. Wow. You see 3 ports.
Anyway, if you want to check out the whole text adventure game, you can check that out. So, anyway, that's what Jim Gary has done this week.
All right. Well, we'll cut him some slack.
Next up, we have. Now, I didn't cover this last week. I don't know if I missed it or if they got released a little bit late, but basically, there's 2 new episodes of Sibling Rivalry. Episode 23, which is a Coco game, Microbes, which I'll play a little bit of here shortly. And then they just released another one either last night or this morning, which is actually doing the Atari 2600 game that I think we're fairly familiar with these days, called Fall Down, this is what Firefall and Waterfall and everything else was originally based on. And that one actually has a 2-player simultaneous mode, which none of the Coco versions have.
Ooh,
where you're falling down the platforms and you can bump into each other and throw each other off, so you like miss a platform and you're trying to collect the gold and stuff. So it actually looks like a fun modification to the game. We've got a couple versions up on the Coco, so I wouldn't mind seeing somebody create a 2-player version of that, because that actually looks like a lot of fun. So I'll play a little bit of that one actually after. I didn't originally plan on doing that, but maybe I'll throw it in. But I'll just play a little bit of the intro of Microbes. Now, for those of you who don't know Microbes, this was originally called Color Meteoroids by Spectral when they sold it on their own. Tandy liked it enough, they renamed it, did some tweaks to it, and then they sold it as Microbes, a game cartridge. It's kind of Asteroids. Well, it is Asteroids. The one unique thing about it, though, is it uses both joysticks. One joystick controls the engine flying direction, and the other joystick controls the firing. So you don't fire in the direction you're flying in. You can fire completely in a
so that's kind of like Robotron-ish.
Yes.
It would be
exactly
almost
like
impossible
that,
to do.
One joystick moves you, one joystick controls where you're firing.
It'd be very difficult for one person to do that with 2 hands. I know that's what it's probably designed for, but that
unless you tape your joysticks to a table
challenging,
or something.
Yeah.
So in this case, they team up and they are actually controlling. One's controlling the moving, one controlling the firing. They actually do quite well. So I'll play a little bit of that.
Okay, cool. Pew, pew, pew. I like that. I think I'm getting sick.
AJ, welcome to another episode of Sibling Rivalry, the show where me and my sister, play video games.
Right on. I'm here, and you are currently residing in Angenetia.
And what's the national animal for Angenetia?
Well, it's the mermaid, of course.
Of course, the mermaid. And how does Ryan Reynolds fit into Angenetia?
Well, someday he'll come visit.
I believe he's the ambassador to Canada.
I mean, he could be the ambassador to Angenetia. I'd be happy with that.
The Canadian ambassador to Angenetia.
Absolutely.
Duly noted.
Now I'll fast forward a little bit to the actual gameplay.
Where one person drives and one person shoots, but whatever.
Hey, it works for us. Okay. And here we go.
Okay. Oh, did you see that? See that?
I did.
I pointed in the right direction at the right time.
Oh, we're going to get such a good score.
You think?
Yeah. I think we're going to hit a high score. Now,
the
game is called Microbes because you're supposed to be fighting disease inside of a cell. But let's face it, this is Asteroids.
Yeah.
Anybody who's
played it. Oh,
so close.
Hey, you can check out the rest of the video.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
I'm just going to do a quick cheat here.
Atari Fall Down. Okay, and this is like from the 2600?
Yeah, so I just want to show it because it's actually a pretty good version of the game. It actually looks like a lot of fun for 2 players.
Hey, Tim!
Hey, AJ.
Want to go play some video games?
I want to go play one in particular. This game in 2005.
And that's not to be confused with our favorite Curtis, L. Curtis.
I didn't mean to pick that
No,
particular
Curtis
segment,
Boyle
sorry.
is a different Curtis.
Yeah, and he's the cool dude.
So this is...
Yeah, right.
But here we go. We're going to start.
Fall Down 2600.
I'm not ready, but I'm going to try.
All right. You remember?
I love the Running Man. That looks really good.
Am I pink?
Yeah, I am pink.
No, I'm blue.
So we bounce off each other, and we try to be the first one to go through the platforms.
So
and we get a point.
So this is almost the opposite of Farfall, though, because this one, the whole thing's a platform with just a hole.
Yeah, rather than little tiny platforms.
Yeah.
Got it.
But the fact you can slam each other off.
Yeah.
And if you get up to the top of the screen, you get crushed and you die. But you come back, it'll go about 3 levels, and then your player will come back on from the
now
side.
the holes
so
are getting bigger.
You can die by being crushed by a platform at the very top of the screen.
Okay.
That's a long way to go just to get across. Oh, look at I'm going to get one you didn't get.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun version of it. I'd never really thought of trying to make that 2-player, but it actually works pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's competitive 2-player too, so perfect for their show.
And you can't jump, so if you have to be in the level where it's at, you can't like jump over the hole to get
I
something.
played this game a number of years ago.
Interesting trope flip that the holes are good, or the good thing, and the platform is the bad thing. Because if you're on a platform, you can't get to a hole and drop.
Somebody got crushed.
This game's not over, AJ. Game was not over.
That's cool.
You could have upped your points. I was pink. I got.
Hey, it's a pretty interesting game. So anybody who's done any of the Farfall, Waterfall style games, I wouldn't mind seeing a 2-player game of this like this because it actually has some extra gameplay, and it has both 1 and 2-player versions. You can play like a normal game we're used to, but the 2-player really adds some stuff to it. Maybe once where these network cards are going, this would be a nice game to send across playing against each other over the net.
I smell a Nick Marenti side project coming on here.
And Rick Hewlin can maybe bundle a game like this with his network card when it's done. Right?
Love to.
All right.
That'd be cool.
Oh, that's next.
Next is the last the Game On challenge. So we haven't covered Cuthbert Dragon in a while because he's been doing a lot of. He constantly redoes his channel. He kills all of his videos and then redoes them again. So I haven't really been covering because we covered most of the games again. And he's been doing some other platforms as well, not just the Dragon. But this week he actually released one playing Pinball Factory by Mictron, which I don't know how many people have actually seen. It's originally written by Kerry McFadden, and it's basically a pinball emulator with up to 4 players, but it lets you design your own boards. You can actually place everything on and design it. And I don't think it's something that's been seen too often, so I thought I'd show a little bit of it.
I like his gravity simulation. It's pretty good.
Yeah, decent physics, eh?
Pretty good speed there, too. So
Yep.
this is
and the editor's actually quite good.
A little bit better than the original pinball cartridge where everything was like low-res blocks,
Yeah. And the one nice thing about this editor, too, like the original pinball cartridge did let you edit in and put in bumpers and draw lines and stuff. This lets you place all the individual pieces, but you can also design the, the actual graphics like that would show up on a pinball machine on the lit up glass.
Okay.
That upper right corner that's completely blank, you can
Oh,
actually
that would be
design
like
your own.
the whole billboard art looking thing.
the backglass.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually design that as part of your tables when you save them too. So actually, you can say written by Stevie Stroh or created by Stevie Stroh, and then name whatever the table is. So you can actually throw some graphics up there too.
That's cool.
I don't know if this would make a good game on challenge. There's some game tables built in that you could make as part of the challenge, but I think the challenge, if we ever did this as a challenge game, Ken, this might be one. Challenge people to come up with their own board for everybody else to play. Like maybe do a 2-week thing where you announce and that if people design their own boards and
pick their favorite,
submit them all, and then people can go and try them on, and then maybe have a vote or something.
Yeah. I noticed the table changed in the middle of this game. That's
right because you scrub through it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually what they do. So.
Okay.
And it supports up to 4 players by looking at the scoreboard there, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds
here's another
me
one.
of,
You want to see another one?
So there's a handful of elements, and then you can just kind of drag and drop them where you want them.
Yeah. And you can test it before you save it. Just make sure it doesn't get to be impossible.
See if it's playable or whatever.
And you can see you've got the ones where you have to punch out the 4 things, and you get a big bonus if you get all 4 of them, 4 resets, etc. So
Pinball Factory. That is neat. That is really neat.
So,
I have not seen that before.
I have actually had made some tables too, and I probably have them saved on a disc somewhere, but I'd kind of forgotten about it, to be honest. So yeah, I maybe wanted to come up with a game challenge, do something a little bit different, like we've talked about sometimes doing adventure games and stuff as a kind of a side game.
Yeah.
This I don't know if this would count as a full game or maybe a side game along with something else too. But designing tables and having people compete at them, or maybe live streaming during the live stream. For the first 10 minutes, we're going to play Nick Marenti's design table or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's it for the Game On news this week.
All right. And how much newsy news do we have? Do we have a lot?
A fair bit. Not a ton. Well, it's kind of a medium size, I guess.
All right. Well, does anybody need a potty break? I would say, if you're talking to us, Ron, we can't hear you. You're muted. But I would just say, let's just roll with the news. And anybody needs to take a... What's that, Ron?
Do you want to see the Enter magazine?
Yeah.
Oh, you got one? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Children's Television Workshop. I never heard of this one either.
It was pretty cool.
Oh, so it's a multi-platform magazine too.
Man, there must have been a lot of these I didn't see. I remember Compute with the
Computers
exclamation
Rock
mark on it.
MTV. Review IBM's PC Junior. Programming the Atom, Apple, Atari, Commodore, IBM, TRS-80, and TI. Wow. Win a robot.
It looks like he's getting his drink from one.
Yeah.
Right. Is that Scott Baio?
That's Scott Baio, yeah. Scott Baio's cousin. No, that's cool.
What's the thing next to his left hand?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that a radio, a boombox, or something else?
Dog.
Or is it petting a robot
Isn't that
dog?
his easy boy, lazy boy chair extender thing arm
Yeah.
that you flatten the chair out? I'm not sure.
Could either be the back of like a little boombox, or maybe it's meant to be a robot dog he's petting. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
It looks like it has a handle like you can carry it, but it has a flexible neck.
It doesn't look like K9 from
Yeah.
Doctor Who, but could
No,
be.
not quite.
All right, Simon's telling us he's got to go. Take care, Simon. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for a good show, guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
been
for
a while.
stopping by, Simon.
Yeah, it's good to see you, mate.
All right.
All right.
Beard's going good.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's just go ahead and run with the news. Let me go ahead and just switch the scene here. And we're going to go ahead and just go to our news segment. I'm going to skip the intro and just go to the scene. We are now in...
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah. We are ready for news with L. Curtis Boyle. If anybody's got to go to the potty break, you don't need to raise your hand. You don't need a hall pass. Just by all means. Just,
Yeah.
let
Just
it go.
don't go to the bathroom while
Right,
you're
just make sure
snoozing.
you press
That's
the
my
mute
one
button. That's all. Just hit the
recommendation.
mute button.
Take off the body mic.
Uh-huh. All right,
Yeah.
take us away
Yeah,
with
one-
news, L. Curtis.
One streaming catastrophe was enough for the show.
Right. Okay. And this is
Hey,
I'm
we talked-
excited about.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. So one thing about the Coco VJ is that all the extension, the additional stuff aside from driving a VJ monitor, which is fairly easy, you just plug it in, is that a lot of these things required some machine language utilities or programs to do, like reprogram fonts, change palettes, etc. So a basic programmer had to load in these assembly language routines. And sometimes, for a person that doesn't know assembly language at all, that's not the easiest way to do it. So what he's been working on, Brendan, the guy who created the Coco VGA, is actually adding extensions to BASIC. So he's adding some new keywords to BASIC, so you can just program in BASIC. You just load this little BASIC extension, then you have this available to your program. Now he's released the first, he kind of calls it a really early beta, so it's almost an alpha at this point, which actually adds in 8 commands. Requires a 64K Coco 1 or 2 because it needs it in all RAM mode to patch BASIC for it. So if you have 32K or under, it will not do this. But basically, the commands he's added, so he's added V reset, which tells the Coco VJ to reset to power on default. So if you get something going wonky or you just want to make sure you're in a stable state where you know what state the machine's in, you can just run the V reset command and resets the VGA. He's got V palette, which will change registers. Now, the way these commands work is that you have this reserved 512 byte page and you set up certain things on that page and then you tell it basically on a VSync to flip over and do it and you lose a VSync. Which means if you're trying to do palette animation, for example, you can only do a palette change every second frame easily if you're just doing a palette command. So he's actually got a special option on the palette command. Besides setting which palette number you're changing and what value you're changing it to, he also has a flag to say, do the palette change immediately on the next VSync, or store them up so you can actually enter in a bunch of them, which you can plaster through on your basic program really quick. And then on the last one, you would set this flag and say, yeah, now update all the palettes at once. So this way you can animate like 6 palettes in one VSync, rather than if you're doing it the other way, you'd be doing 6 different VSyncs, which would slow down the animation quite a bit. So it gives you a lot more control over it. So that's a really cool thing. And if I end up implementing the palette command on Nitrous 9 level 1, I think I'm going to follow his lead on this one, because I was trying to think of a way to do that too. And this is actually a beautiful way to do it. So basically, if you put a (0) at the end of it, it says store the palette change, but don't activate it yet. And then you can do up to 8, 9 palettes at a time. And then you tell them the last one, you do a (1). Now change the actual hardware to update the palettes, and it does them all in one shot. So you can get much better animations and stuff and faster palette switching. Another one he's added in is V artifact. This lets you turn artifacting off, so you can just get the straight green or white. Or you have options of 3 different kinds of artifacting. You do pure 4 color like the older versions of BCC did, so you just get black, white, or red and blue. And then he's also got 8 or 16 color using 6-tap filters, etc. It's kind of like MAME and the newer versions of BCC does. So you can pick which one looks best for the game you want to run. So like Daggerath, you may want to run in a pure black and white, or Microbes like Tim and AJ did. Or you may want the full artifacting with a bunch of the yellowish, purples, greens, and all the subtle ones you do. So it supports all that. You can actually set that in your game or whatever you're writing just to tell it right off the bat. My game's designed for pure black and white, so just switch it over to pure black and white mode. The person doesn't have to specify their own or hit the buttons. You can actually have the game itself tell the VGA to do it. So that's really cool. He's got V border, which allows you to change the border color. Now, one thing the Coco VGA has by default, when you change the mode of the screen, it'll usually print a little overlay saying you're in SG6 or you're in.
Oh, nice. The quiet turns that off.
You can now shut that on or off. Yeah.
Okay.
So which is beautiful, because that's one thing that was a little bit annoying for me. It's nice to know what the program's doing, but I don't really need it on the screen when I'm trying to play a game or something. Especially if you have a game that switches modes, because it's really annoying. Another one he's got is V-Load Cares. This lets you load the custom font, which is really cool too, because then you can just tell it to V-load it. You don't have to figure out a load M or anything special. It's just part of basic, load in an alternate character set type thing. There's also V-Scan lines.
We'll scroll down because we can't see it now. So scroll down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just reading off my notes. So
okay. No, you went too far. Go back up.
Here's my font. That's what I'm on right now.
Okay. Well, no, the top of the page had all the things like as bullet points. Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're on V-Scan lines, which is that's a feature of the Coco VGA with a button you can press. There's a couple of the buttons where you can switch between artifact modes and border modes and simulated scan lines on and off. So now that feature is software controlled instead of hardware switch controlled.
Yeah, which is really good. If you're designing games for the Coco VGA, you get to pick what you want it to visually look like. And the scan lines, of course, it does every second line is black, kind of like a regular NTSC TV did back in the day. Now, one thing I'll mention on the V font here, it's actually got some extra options. You have font selects between the original 6847, the original Coco 1 VDG, which a lot of the older games like Protectors 2 use. You've got the T1 lowercase VDG, which has the character shifted but adds lowercase, etc. Those are built in, so you can switch to those anytime you want. And you can also have a third one that you've loaded yourself, and you can just switch between them whenever you want. And that would be like the one you did for Cabal.
Okay.
The artifact we talked about a little bit already. That changes the artifacting modes and the different color sets. The border, we talked about that as well. So you can do standard tile border. You can do a full border like the T1 VDG. You can disable the border so it's always black. This is Nick Morendi's favorite thing on the Coco VGA. And you can also override it with custom border colors with extra palette slots. And the quiet mode, once again, you can tell it to delay updating the actual display until you've got a bunch of things set. If you want palette changes and the border changed and blah, 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 you can tell it defer all those until I got them all set up and ready to go, and I'll change them all at once.
Okay.
V-Load Cares, of course, that's for loading in your fonts. Scan lines we talked about. V-Width, this actually just lets you change it between 32 and 64 column mode. So that's just a simple basic command now to do that, just like a width 40 or width 80 is on the Coco.
So I'm just wondering if in a future update, if you can flash the firmware, if this will be built in as a basic extension when you power up your Coco VGA, or if you have to hack it every single time. Because
I think if you did a 16K ROM and a disk controller or something like that.
Yeah, maybe in the disk controller.
Oh, but you can't bake this into
extended
the
basic and basic, the 16K that those two ROMs take is completely full. You don't have enough room to add all this.
Right. No, I'm just thinking that if it was built into the Coco VGA chip, but that chip doesn't really touch the ROM banks or the ROM extensions, so you couldn't bake it into there. Okay. All right, scratch that thought. No, that's pretty cool though.
So it does have some known bugs. You'll see on the bottom there. This is the
right,
very first
and I'm already thinking ahead of the palette command, and because what I did to get multiple colors of things is I had to use some of the 8 colors in our semi-graphics things to create like 8 different versions of the same thing. Now I could conserve a lot of custom fonts just by palette hacking the same image for different screens and stuff. And you get to specify the red, green, and blue values for your colors. So instead of it just assigning us like when you're doing like palette slot 1, 63, how we do in Coco 3 Basic, the colors are not just numerically sequenced. There's different values for the red, green, and blue. So you kind of have to specify all those. But then you could kind of play with that, and you could even do fades. Like, so you could bring things up and fade in and fade out. So that a lot more granularity in that regard. So
yeah, when we showed the video last week when we was first talking about this, and he actually had a little demo that just did the border or the background color and the foreground color going between the grays. One was going like from black to white,
right,
from white to black, and he kind of cross-faded between the two. We're showing that technique. Yeah, it's pretty good. And like I said, I'd been trying to figure out a way for Nitrous 9 level 1 because I did do some 64 column patches and stuff for it. But I didn't really figure out a good way to do it because you had to like pre-populate this 512 byte area and then tell it to do a special thing to tell the Coco VGA to now act on whatever settings you've done. I hadn't figured out a way to really cleanly do something like this where you can have complete control when these settings get done. Because that the way I was trying it, everything was immediate, but it eats an entire VSync every time. You have to let it scan for one frame that 512 byte page to make any changes to the mode or the colors or whatever else you're doing. So it was always slowing things down because basically you lost a 60th of a second while it was updating the Coco VGA every single palette change. So if I was changing like 8 palettes, so that's 8 times 2, 16 scan lines worth of CPU time gone doing this. This is a much smarter way, which I thought of back when I was working on it. But if I get back to that ever, I'm going to have to implement it this way. This is a really nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, available for download on his site. I think it's up on Facebook as well, for those of you that have Coco VGAs. Play around with it. Obviously, he's got some bugs he's already listed. If you find anything else or any suggestions for him, just reach him on his website. Next up, Fabian Rodriguez has started another Coco Facebook group because we don't have enough with all the ones Ron's made.
I know.
So he's done one for basically Coco people in Canada. So he announced that on the regular Coco group there. And then this is the actual page itself. And it accepts both French and English because we do have a fair number of Coco people that speak French. And of course, Tony DiStefano was from Montreal originally too. So we even had some Coco, major hardware manufacturers back in the day, but they were from Quebec as well. So we'll cover both French and English speakers. And there's not too much on it right now, but it's an alternative, I think, for some of the people up in Canada here, where we seem to be in Ontario and Quebec. You can still get Coco 3s at affordable prices like we discussed last week.
All right.
Extra that, now I didn't cover any of Robert Seek stuff last week because he even himself admitted that things weren't quite working the way he would have liked, but he's actually done a little bit more on it. So he's working on improving stuff here and starting to get the colors down. Now the text is kind of hard to read on this particular sample image, but he's starting to get the colors working the way he wanted to. As he mentions in the original comment here, he said, but what I really wanted to share is that it appears that the output using HDMI created a near perfect circle at 640 by 384, meaning the non-real pixels are 2 times 1 seemingly perfectly. So he's getting the ratios and stuff worked out properly. And some of the colors are actually starting to show up correctly too. So he's still got more tweaking to do, but he's actually made some advancements.
Yeah, he gets the cyan. Yeah, your color ball pattern there looks pretty close to the right colors, right? Your cyan, your green. Some of them do anyways. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Next up after that, Sheldon McDonald has released his Sega PSG. Now the PSG, that's Ed Snyder, Zipster Jones multi-card. So it does joysticks, sound generation, ROM flashing, all kinds of stuff. And Sheldon McDonald's uploaded a PSG diagnostics disc that you can get off of his website called Sega PSG. You can see a picture of this little GUI interface we talked about on the show before, where you can create little graphics, and then you have flashed ROMs of various games, and you can design your own little graphics. You just move the joystick around and select it and click it and launch that particular ROM pack.
It's making it kind of like a multi-cart with a GUI.
Yeah. So for those of you who have not seen it before, this is kind of what it looks like here. So you can see, like, here's an Androne one he made. Here's a Pegasus one. Here's Clowns and Balloons, Downland, etc. So you can just create them all, and then you can go through and try them out. And then the diagnostic part here, and actually this was being used by some people to use some of the 6-button Sega Genesis controllers and stuff, and be able to read the buttons, to read the actual directions you're hitting on the actual up, down, left, right joystick part of it. So it's a good way to test to make sure everything's working correctly, and trying some compatible controllers to see how well they work as well. And so anybody who wants to fiddle with this kind of stuff and has a PSG, you've actually got some software you can use to test your controllers. I know some people had mentioned in the comments earlier that some of the controllers weren't registering everything quite correctly. So they were figuring out some cheap, Chinese knockoff of the controller cloned didn't quite function properly.
Okay.
Next up, now this was a huge discussion on Discord this week, talking about the unused pin on the RGB connector, and what was the function, because there's some differing parts of various technical manuals, etc., saying it's not connected, doesn't do anything, but on some other technical reference, it was actually referring to the fact that something was hooked up to it. And I remember this was getting discussed back in the day, that this thing they thought might be a way to detect that an RGB monitor was plugged in. because the voltage would change if it had been hooked up properly to actually read back that if you have RGB plugged in. So it could have been something like games, or the basic ROM could have said, I see you've got an RGB monitor plugged in. I will make sure the palettes are all set to RGB. And if you don't, you could have set it all to composite by default. That actually didn't end up happening. Another thing that Mark Siegel had mentioned, because he was trying to remember what this was about too, is that it may have been just a power on thing. So if you turned your Coco on and if this pin had hooked up to the monitor and the monitor supported it properly, it would have automatically turned the monitor on as soon as the Coco turned on. Because it could have detected that too. Now, Rick Ewan, were you involved with these discussions? I can't remember if you were part of that conversation. You're muted.
That's about how much I know about the subject. Mute.
So the mystery is being presented, but has the mystery been solved, or is it still a mystery?
No, it's still a mystery. Pedro kind of goes through some of the theories, and also he did some actual readings of what's coming out on that pin on this video. It's 6 minutes. I don't want to play the whole thing here, but maybe I'll play a little bit, just kind of give you a bit of background on it. Better explain
Earlier
than I
today,
ran.
somebody on the Coco Discord server had some questions about what the pinout was on the connector on the bottom of the Coco 3 in order so that he can make cable to use his RGB to HDMI adapter. There was some back and forth, and then we came up with this as a guide. Everything's good, fine and dandy. We've labeled each pin, we know the orientation. There was one pin, however, we could not find the function for. And so it was asked, what is it for? A couple of people went out and looked around and investigated. And
Which pin is the mystery pin? Is it pin 10?
In the manual,
10.
pin 10 is described as a sense pin to know, so that the Coco knows when there's a CM8 monitor connected to it. Someone else went and looked at the code in one of the Unraveled books and saw that the pin itself is never set as an input, but rather is set as an output. And so, interesting, let's start making some measurements. I took out a voltmeter and saw that the pin is at 2.5 volts. Never at 0. And I started playing around and starting some programs. And under some programs, it would jump to 5 volts. Under others, it would stay at 2.5. What the heck is going on? I don't know. So we started chatting, and there were some theories thrown around. So I just wanted to, put a little video together, just describing what I found. Hopefully it can help somebody figure this out.
Now, Pedro actually is in the chat right now. So, Pedro, if you want to pop on, you can probably explain this a lot easier and more accurately than I do as to what you discovered. So if you want to hop in, feel free to. But he kind of goes through, and he actually does some of the measurements. I'll just forward it a little bit here so kind of see. He goes through some schematics, what everything's labeled as.
It's interesting that it sits at 2.5 volts, because that could be a 1 or a 0 depending on if you stuck a little resistance on there. So it's kind of an indeterminate value or a 1.
Yeah. Because what he's doing here is he's actually setting like the color set bit here on the VDG, and that's when it kicks up to 5.
Is essentially 2.5 volts, and I'm going to run it. Oops. When I run it, it goes to 4.92 volts, which is essentially
Doesn't
5
that
volts.
pin go to a PIA?
It goes back to 2.5 volts.
If you look at the schematics for the Coco 3, that
Well,
pin go.
One of the things they discussed was the fact that its purpose as an input or an output, because of course in the PI you can change direction, is
Well, you can
seems to be
change
totally
directions,
different. So actually, Pedro said he'll try to get on here. So like I said, I'll let him explain a lot better. I'm not a hardware guy, so.
Okay. So
I'll leave the video up here. I'll just go on to the next story. But if he manages to make it on, we'll have him actually kind of talk about it in a bit more detail. In the meantime, we'll go on to the Taylor and Amy show, and they actually got their MC10. They got their SDX32 SD, so they've got the SD card reader and everything else, and they have a video going through it. They surprisingly like the keyboard a fair bit, and then, of course, they got the Color Computer Archive in the background. They downloaded a ton of software to try on it. They actually only tried basic games of them. They haven't tried some of the assembly language ones like Pac-Man and Flag and Bird and some of those others, so they should definitely try those in the future too. But Let's play a little bit of the intro here. It's a 24-minute show. You should definitely go catch it.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Taylor.
I got a new computer.
What? A new computer? How new is it?
It's so old. It's the Radio Shack TRS-80 model MC10. And I'm kind of in love with it. It's so cute.
It still amazes me that there were computers this small back in the day. Because we didn't personally have them.
No. I would have loved something like this.
Yeah, and
if I had known it existed.
I was gonna say, and good thing we didn't know about it.
So this sold for like $129 when it first came out, and then $79.
Looks like it's got a little solder burn on there. Somebody melted
Oh,
something.
you got to see that. That was a cable.
Okay.
It came out to compete with the Sinclair Timex 1000, which is the American branding of the ZX81. Placed on top of the computer. And when you put the rubber that's on these old cables next to the plastic that contains the computer, it eats into it. And so show them up close. You can see that it has some cosmetic damage.
It's like dissolves like.
From where the...
Wow.
And you can see where the cord, I mean, you can...
Wow, it like melted its way into
so
there.
like on the one hand, I'm like, oh, it's got some cosmetic damage. But on the other hand, I've got proof that no one touched this thing for decades. They didn't even jostle the box.
Yeah, long enough for it to melt itself.
The cord stayed in one place. So
Like the coconut cup there, huh?
It still has its warranty. The seal has not been broken, so it has not been opened.
Not yet by us.
And it also
Or anyone.
came with... Oh, here's my...
Brand new shiny
brand new thing I don't need. It came with this manual that I just adore. It gives you an introduction to...
Oh, there's a quick reference card.
And how to connect it to a TV. And then it really goes into Micro Color Basic, which is the brand of Color Basic it has. So we're going to use this.
Important customer information.
That's there. And I got this startup guide, which I really like because it has this...
That's really good.
All the basic commands.
Yeah, and Radio Shack for the Coco stuff actually had a color basic one, for the 8K ROM basic, and they also had an extended basic, which Ken showed earlier.
Yeah.
That actually has highlighted in gray all the extended basic commands. So, and there was a third party that put out a bunch of these too that actually had like the little graphic symbols and stuff too. That I'm trying to remember. They used to always have an ad in the first couple pages.
Okay, Ken's holding something up. Is that the extended basic one again, Ken?
Here, I'll stop sharing so you can show that there.
Yeah, that was the Nanos card.
Yeah, thanks. That's the one I was trying to remember.
It had the magic numbers on it that no one knew what they were for.
Yeah, and they made it for multiple platforms, like the Model 1, the 3, the 2, the Coco, etc.
You know what this reminds me of too is I made stuff like this as like Dungeon Master guides whenever you were playing like Dungeons and Dragons. You'd take a poster board and make your fold out to put all your stats and tables and stuff like that in there. Just all your reference stuff, you know. So, yeah, cool.
So they get it up and running, and then they kind of go through the Coco SDC, or the equivalent of the Coco SDC, the SDX.
Oh, they got one of those too, huh? They're just jumping into this Coco hobby, huh?
Getting some stuff off the archive. Showing off some of the SDC commands, doing a dir of the disk.
Demon attack. Cool.
Anyway, they're through multiple basic programs. They haven't actually tackled some of the extended basic programs yet because there are some high-res games like Jim Gary's done. There's also the machine language games, like the ones we talked about earlier, like the Inafudo stuff, Fabrizio Caruso's, the Greg Dion compiled stuff. So there's quite a few more advanced games too that they have yet to go through, but there's a ton of stuff there. Anyway, it's a really good episode, so you guys could definitely go check that out as well. Have we had a Rocky Hill Pedro Pena sighting?
He says he can't sign in. I'm sending you a Discord message with the Zoom link.
Okay. On to the next one then. So this one I am going to play the whole thing. It's another 4-minute video.
Shows he's on here on the participants list.
Oh, is he on? Because we can do him
Oh, we
first.
do see Pedro Pena. Okay.
So, Pedro, are you on, or are you still getting hooked up?
All right, let's play the next clip. He'll
Okay.
jump in.
Okay, so this one here, we've been covering the recreation of the Dragon beta, which was the multi-CPU, high-res graphics, MMU, all kinds of things added in. The really high-end Dragon that was actually in pre-production. They were actually had some hardware already made, and then Dragon shut down, so the entire project got canceled. And John Whitworth has been trying to recreate it off the original motherboards from Dragon data. So they've actually gotten the graphics demo that was originally written for OS 9 Level 2 for the Dragon beta, which runs in a 640 by 512 8-color mode. And they actually had some graphic stuff in there done. Now, it's a little bit buggy. It wasn't quite finished before Dragon shut down. But it has stuff like drawing circles and paint commands and stuff like that too, which will be demoed here. But it's actually got some fairly advanced stuff like scaling and angling and stuff that we don't have on any of the basics, including Basic 9. So I thought I'd play this just to kind of show you the demo that was originally done by Dragon themselves. The driver wasn't quite done yet, so there's some little glitches here and there. But it's pretty interesting to see how advanced they're going. It's not the quickest thing in the world. It wasn't optimized yet. But there's some stuff in there that's pretty darn advanced.
Especially that floppy load. Paletting.
Palette animation.
Yeah, fonts.
And remember, this is 1984. This is 2 years before the Coco 3 would have been out.
Okay. We got like some geometry shapes and whatnot.
Yeah.
It can be rotated. Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can set the origin point and the rotation. And it'll automatically update the graphics there. So if you tell it to shift the start point over, everything moves.
Yeah, the draw command could do that, but only on like four directions, not on a radial. So it's like
Yeah, like here you're doing X, Y, Z. Yeah, now you're Z.
Yeah, we got the whole CAD cam thing going on here.
Yeah, literally.
Example of scaling, rotating, and translating. Okay. Okay, so that looks like a rotation.
Pretty quick, in my opinion.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, on
it's
the
actually
outline,
it's kind of like it's getting smaller now too as it's rotating, right? So
yeah. And you can rotate around the axis, so it will kind of invert it.
What is it doing now?
Now this is showing get put, but with angling and everything else too in rotation.
Okay.
So
And scaling.
yeah. And you can do angled text.
Wow.
With colors added on too.
This can produce strange results. It says, okay, that's like
you're
rotating.
sideways
Yeah, right.
asking for the time.
Okay, paint.
Now this is something like we've sped up the paint routines in Nitrous 9 quite a bit past this, which is what the original Tandy version did. But the nice thing about the paint here is you can tell it to stop at a specific color or at any color different than the color you're painting. So you actually have a bit more control over the paint.
Okay.
Like you're just telling it to stop, when you hit black, for example. And then they have other ones where if it hits anything.
Oh, neat. Some sign graphs, some pie charts. Eat your heart out, Excel. Right? So and now for the grand finale. Dun dun dun. Dragon 128. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, it's going all around in circles. Look at that. Lord. I don't know if I can handle this.
Not just circles, but perspective.
Yes.
Kind of coming in
Yeah.
at an angle.
No, yeah. I'm getting like the 3D.
And my understanding is this is just a basic 09 program using their new graphics library. So it's just basic.
And you can do
They got some
fonts on
scaling.
top of fonts and all kinds of stuff. Man, that is wild.
Yeah, this was pretty darn advanced for that time.
Absolutely. It's more advanced than I could do now in any level of basic myself. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what could have been if Dragon hadn't gone under right at the time this was getting done in mid-1984.
We need a new soundbite. Tell me why I did Dragon go under? Do 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 do. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Alan Huffman, we need that. Get in the
So
studio.
Pedro, are you on enough to be able to talk about the?
I'm on, but I don't know if anyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear
we
you
can
now.
hear you now.
Yeah.
I will stop sharing and let you speak.
All right. Well, okay. I wasn't expecting this. So yeah, from what you saw there, pin 10 on the RGB port there goes to the PIA, and although in the manual it says it's a sense for the Coco 3, it's never really an input. It's always set to an output. So I was like, oh well, let me go back and look at the schematics for the Coco 2, and that same pin on the PIA is used by the Coco 2, and it goes to the artifacting circuit. And just, I mean, I don't really know what's going on there as far as the code goes, but it was interesting to me that whenever there was a game that used a certain mode, that pin would turn, go high and go low. So maybe that's a remnant from the Coco 2 days that was just never touched. That was used, to kill the artifact, or I guess it would turn off one of the phases to mess with the colors that are being displayed. And that's what I found, and that's what I saw. And I played certain games, and I think I played it was Frogger, and I think it was what other game? One of Nick's games, Roy's game, that I think was not using any sort of artifacting at all, and it always stayed down at 2.5 volts, which is, although it's a TTL high, 2.5 and 5 volts is a TTL high, it was a low state on the PIA.
So I wonder if it's just in the high color set, because you had every screen had a high and low color set. So like your text mode had the green and the orange. The orange was high. Your P mode 3 had the green background or the white background, and that was low or high. And then your P mode 4 had the green background low and white background high. So I wonder if it's just saying, if it's like what do they call that, the CSS set or something like that?
Yeah, color select set.
Yeah, color select set.
It is the color select line.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just that. If it's telling you if that's in high or low. So if it's in the
Yeah, I mean, I think it is that, and it was just, I guess, never implemented. And I thought it was just another case of the hardware team not talking to the software team.
And then in the live chat, David Lord just said that in the CM8 manual schematic, it shows pin 10 not connecting internally to the CM8 at all. So the CM8 wasn't even listening for that pin.
Right.
Unless it was just in a cable that was shorted.
Right.
So,
you
take
could
it to
short it on
ground.
a cable.
In the end of the plug or something.
So that's what I was thinking. If you had a cable that had a resistor on there, and I think Alan brought it up. AC's 8-bit brought it up, where if you could just short it with a resistor, you could detect when a cable is connected. And that's great because it's a generic sort of connection that would let the Coco know that there was an RGB monitor connected instead of having the circuitry. That's a theory. We don't know for sure. But in any event, it was never set as an input on the Coco, right? It's still an output. So that, to me at least, looks like a pin, that a general I/O pin that can be used. I think, Dave Phillipson pointed out that it probably wouldn't be a good idea to use it as an output for graphics reasons, for the Give Me X and stuff. But it could probably safely be used as an input. So I mean, I think that's a good candidate for a pin that can be repurposed for something as, something like, an RTC or something, external RTC, or, something,
Anything, yeah.
anything. Mark Siegel pointed out that, he was showing, he put on some links to some, some chips that you could interface, single wire like I2C, I2C, and single wire RS-232 that could be used on there. Stuff like that. I mean, it's definitely available for something. It's not being used.
So is this kind of like the Coco's appendix? It's the organ that's not really been used, and you if you remove it, it doesn't change anything. And
they had the spare pin, so they just took it up in case they ever thought of something to do with it.
Yeah, it's not used. I mean, there are a couple of other pins on the sink guy that are not used, but I mean, those are like we're pointing out, those are set whenever, I guess, in VDG mode.
Now,
VDG,
David Lord is saying that pin 10 reads 2.5 volt only if the PIA is configured as an output. So if you configure the PIA as an input, then that changes the voltage on that pin 10?
Well, it'll go, if you switch it to an input, I'm imagining it'll go up to to an input, it'll go up to 5 volts. But at that point, it's just 5 volts high, via a resistor. You can drive it down to 0, and you can use it as you can use it as a TTL input.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it looks like it probably was planned to do something different, and there's been some speculation, like you guys were talking in the Discord, of it being a monitor select or monitor sense pin to see if the monitor's plugged in, or to turn it on automatically if it was fired up. What's your thoughts on any of that? And not knowing that it never was fully implemented.
Oh, to be used as an output to turn the monitor on?
Either that, or just a sense if the RGB is plugged in to something, so that you could set the palette, say in basic, on boot to RGB values instead of composite.
Yeah, as a detection, I think it makes more sense to use an I/O pin for that, because then you'd have to be reading something, right? You could read a state, for example. As an output, for a monitor to detect that the Coco is powered on doesn't make sense, because you wouldn't need a pin for that. It'd be a waste of a pin. You just at least what I would do is I'd have, just 5 volts on the pin. When Coco's on, you have 5 volts. And when Coco's off, you have 0. That's the way I would have done it. I think as an output, unless you were sending some sort of configuration information. Somebody was saying maybe it was spitting out an EDID, or maybe it was reading for an EDID, looking to read an EDID, or something like that. Was it Robert Allen Murphy? Yeah, I think he was saying read the EDID information off of it, like an HDMI monitor or a VGA monitor or whatever.
Did they have unique monitor identifying information back then in the days of the CM8 and everything?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think back then, although you had the same pins for that, I think it was more, or I think there were 2 pins, what are used now for the I2C communications. But you could have 4 combinations of those pins that were detected to see, I guess, the resolution of the monitor or something like that. It was more of a, a fixed combination of voltages, but they were repurposed later on to send EDID information, I think.
But this is the ultimate waffle, because connected to a PIA, it could do anything. And since it puts out either 2.5 or 5 volts, it's always high, I think. So, yeah, it's for future use.
Okay. Yeah. So is it part of the evolution of the Coco?
Let's distort it. Yes.
This one goes to 11.
So it's either an appendix, right, like a vestige, or it's evolving.
It's evolving.
Something that doesn't really have a use yet.
It's the third eye, the one that sees all. Yes. So okay. Interesting.
It's for 3D.
For 3D. I was just kind of wondering too. Maybe that's why we don't have the 256 color mode, because we don't have that extra pin for the larger palette. So.
Or could turn the plane graphics on or off or something.
Okay. Okay.
Anyways, it was interesting. I remember hearing back in the day that people had noticed, like Kevin Darlington, that people when the Coco 3 first came out, they did notice that this pin seemed like it should have had a function but wasn't quite working, and they thought it was a monitor to detect at the time.
Yeah, it's
interesting. Okay.
Maybe it was a plan for RGB composite, but because the CM8 didn't have that pin wide into it anyway, they figured, well, forget that idea. But the function, the capability is in there, but it never got used because the CM8 wasn't designed properly for that pin.
That would have been neat though, because like you could get audio to the CM8 through there too. But if you could have gotten, but see, the whole reason why you bought the CM8 was because it was RGB. But if you could have been able to switch to Artifact like some of the Magnavox ones did, and be able to see some of the artifacting and stuff, if you wanted to, that would have been a neat feature.
But the Coco 3, the NTSC one, it boots up automatically to composite palette when you fire it up. And maybe it was meant to detect to see if you have an RGB monitor
and then boot to RGB
change
palette.
it otherwise. Because currently, even if you have an RGB monitor, as most people have,
right, it doesn't boot.
NTSC
defaults to composite.
automatically defaults to composite palette,
right,
which is wrong.
Right.
And
So that would have been
was
nice.
That was meant to be the correction to that, but it didn't work because the CM8 wasn't built to do that, or to use that pin. So that was a dead plan,
Or maybe-
but became a dead feature.
Okay. Could
or
be.
maybe, if you had a monitor with both RGB and composite input, it could tell the monitor to switch between the two automatically. If you wanted to see something with artifacting, the monitor would just automatically know that it needed to switch to composite input.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Like my Magnavox 8515 does have both, and I leave them both plugged in because I switch between Coco 2 artifacting games and Coco 3 RGB style games. But I have to manually punch that switch every time, so that would have been a good idea if they'd gone that route.
That would only be done if it was a custom-made monitor by Tandy,
Right.
which the CM8 was, but yeah, they ballsed it up there.
I love these Australian terms we get every once in a while.
I'll write that one down.
Well, I think it's the whole why did Tandy do that? Probably because this was cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion. If anybody wants to get into the real technical details that everybody was coming up with theories and tests and stuff that even go beyond the video that Pedro put out, check out our Discord. There's a huge, long discussion ongoing about it. So, and it's all hardware stuff. So it's over
That's in the
my head.
hardware channel.
Yeah.
And I think we created a brand new channel called the CM8 RGB pin 10 channel.
Pin 10 connected channel.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the 10 pin channel dedicated to bowling fanatics. This is the pin 10 channel.
And it'll soon be split into two channels. You have one if you're setting it as an output pin, and another one for an input pin.
Right. And if you can think of some more channels we need, there's an actual channel that's called Suggest More Channels channel. So.
And by the way, Mark, that's not a request, so don't do that.
Now, an idea for anyone who's looking for a hardware project that they've got some spare time, use the pin to control
a blinky light.
Brightness of the RGB output. Then you could via software set up all your colors to be half brightness, which turning it on and off, you can actually have more colors on an RGB monitor then if you're controlling it a bit with that extra pin.
Oh, I see.
Kind of like the intensity thing that the TTL RGB on the PC
sort of like the intensity pin.
Interesting.
So that will give you a few more colors that you could turn on from software.
That's not a bad idea.
There you go. I'm always full of bright ideas.
Yes. That's why he's got all the Ferraris and we...
Full of something.
Yeah. It's full of Vegemite.
Yeah, let's go with that. Close enough.
Same color.
or swill, as I would call Vegemite, but anyway. Okay.
And,
so
and Mr. Dave says confirmed that this was a brilliant idea that Nick just had. So there you go.
There you go. See?
Somebody else is smart out there too, besides Nick.
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail.
Okay, are we done on that one? I can go on to the last
let's
two.
move on. Let's
I
move
gotta
on.
Step out. I
Okay.
have to clean up a dead possum apparently in my yard.
All right. Sounds good.
Plug it into
That's one of the
10,
best
see what it
excuses
does.
to leave the program that I've ever heard.
Soak it in soak it in some mojo sauce for a while. Make some great roadkill stew. So.
Oh yeah. Always have mojo in the pantry.
That's it, man.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks, Pedro. Okay. Back here. So this is an announcement for the Retro Computing Museum in Cambridge in the UK, Centre for Computing and History Museum, which is where the Dragon meetup was back in November. So they're doing one now called the 40th anniversary or 40th birthday retro festival. And this is basically covering machines and kind of highlighting machines that were released exactly 40 years ago. So released in 1982, which happens to include the Dragon as well as some other things. So I will play this kind of a commercial for it. So any of our UK watchers here that can make it to Cambridge. And it's actually coming up pretty quick here. It's actually on May 21st to 22nd. So it's the week after Coco Fest is here in the States.
That upside down acorn looks like an Easter egg. Over the guy's left shoulder there.
It looks like a Ukrainian pasanka.
Uh-huh.
So I'll play the commercial here for it.
All right.
Mark May the 21st and 2nd in your diaries for the 40th Birthday Retro Festival 2022
I don't have a
Computing
diary.
Exhibition, taking place at the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, England. Celebrating the 40th year of some of the most amazing home computers released way back in 1982, including classics from Sinclair, Commodore, Acorn, and many, many more. The event will feature exhibitors from the retro computing world, including friends and colleagues such as Binary Dinosaurs, the 6502 nerd, David Williams, Loud Scots Bloke, and even event organizer
Large Scots Bloke. That's his name? Large Scots Bloke?
Oh, and of course myself as Wi-Fi Sheep. But that's not all. There will also be the Centre for Computing History's amazing in-house exhibition content and hands-on displays for what is going to be an absolutely fantastic day out. We really hope you can join us on the 21st and 22nd of May 2022 at the Centre for Computing History, Cambridge, England. Full details including tickets and pricing, see links at events.wifi-sheep.co.uk.
Okay.
I wish I could make it out and see that retro Purell hand sanitizer dispenser there, the Purell.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't talk today. Never mind.
That's okay.
But that looked like it would be a fun show. I wish I could get out there for that too. But
yeah, that is
someday I will make it out.
That's
to that.
roughly the week after Coco Fest, or maybe exactly the week after Coco Fest. Coco Fest is 13th and 14th. It's a week later, 21st and 22nd, right? So Saturday and Sunday. May 20, and that's just before my birthday, which is on May 24th. So I would love to.
Yeah, someday we'll make it out there. I'll have to take a Coco contingent out
I'm
there.
still waiting on my Interpol ban to allow me to do international travel again. Though I haven't gotten clearance to do that yet. So cool stuff.
I told you not to do those drug deals online. And then what I didn't have in the show notes, but it came in late because I just found it this morning, was Alan at AC's 8-Bit Zone did installing a cooling fan into your Coco.
Okay.
Which is fairly on. And this used to get done a lot in the old days because the old 512 upgrades in the Coco 3 especially ran quite warm. And if you went up to 1 meg, the original versions of 1 meg before they went to Sims, which ran a bit cooler, but stacking a whack load of chips in there to get it going. We had a huge fan in ours at work there, the one that Bill Noble installed. And that thing was loud. Like we were trying to cool off 32 sets of RAM chips. So it was just terrible. We even had to carve a little bit of hole in the case to fit everything. So I'll play a little bit at the beginning here, but you can definitely go check it out on the Zone page here when you get time.
Hi, this is AC.
Hey, I like that shirt.
Zone. If you've ever watched my channel, you'll know that I'm always dabbling with old 8-bit retro computers. So today I have a Color Computer 2 that's running hot. And I'm going to use a DC to DC switcher and power a small 5-volt fan. And it's going to cool the main board off and the power supply considerably. Now you can apply this to virtually any old 8-bit computer. Many of them ran hot, some of them hotter than others. They often had lossy power supplies, so it was common for the a transformer to be in the case, or to to have losses from a linear regulator that's on the main board. You'll know if you have that situation because you may see some darkening marks on the plastic case. And anyway, this is a machine that I'm going to be doing a lot of testing with, swapping boards in and out, and testing lots of chips in this case. So I want this one to run cool, and I want it to last for a long time. It's already almost, is it 40 years old? It's close to 40 years old, and I'd like it to go for another at least 10 or 20 years. So cooling it down will help it considerably with its lifespan. So again, you can do this on any machine, whether it's an Apple or a Commodore, Atari, TRS-80, whichever. And you can apply a similar technique to this to almost any of them. So let's go ahead and get started. I would like to have placed it here and pull in the cool air, pass it over the...
Now, I will mention the case of Bill and me at the work machine. We actually installed it on the top part of the case. So we kind of glued it up and cut a little bit of the plastic supports there under the mesh.
That way you get the natural...
Yeah.
Oh, you had it blow down rather than go up?
Or, sorry, blow up, yeah, from the...
Yeah,
pull the
because
heat off the ramp.
you want the natural heat rising to, be assisted.
Yeah. He talks about how hot some of this stuff gets.
Almost touching the, I think that's the salt chip. So I'm going to move it, I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
Well, that guy's got a custom colored space bar in his melty keyboard
Okay,
there.
there's lots of
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, you had a video where he 3D printed that to replace
Between
the
the
bad
fan
one.
and the ICs now. So that should be good. Okay, there are a couple of diodes here that might be good. Okay, there's minus 14 volts. Minus 14. These large diodes are 12.3.
Is he blowing the air out?
This one is also 12.3.
Yeah, you might be blowing it underneath the keyboard. I can't remember. I didn't get a chance to fully watch this. I just kind of...
Yeah, no, I just thought it's not actually getting the heat out. He's
Well, there's
just
vents. You can see
circulating.
here on this screenshot, there's vents on the bottom. So if he's blowing it down there, it'd be blowing it out underneath the case.
Pressurizing the case, yeah. By sucking from the bottom and pressurizing the case, so you will get exhaust someplace.
Those little DC to DC adapters are cool. You can buy 10 of them for $10 or $11. We just got a little turn screw on them. You can just dial them down to what you want.
So I'm going to let this warm for about 10 minutes and then come back and get a measurement.
Did he ever do a before measurement?
Yeah, the before measurement was 60 degrees, almost 60 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Is that
on
with
that
the
one
lid on
area.
or off?
That's just the one, what is it, the part of the power supply there, that part that gets really hot. Rick, you can
The
point out.
transistor with the heat sink.
Yeah, because he said that was going up to 60 degrees.
Right.
Minutes later.
Okay, and I'm back. That was about 20 minutes of runtime, but I could tell before I even walked away that this was a good improvement because just touching it, it wasn't even getting warm. Even now,
Well, it doesn't have a VGA chip in it.
okay, the heatsink pins are cool to the touch. They're
it's
actually
not-
about the temperature of my hand, maybe cooler.
He's got to have the lid on.
And the transistor itself is slightly warmer than my skin. So,
Well,
I mean, we really don't even need to get a...
Sorry, you guys are discussing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's an interesting thing that I've read about the Coco. It runs the power supply hot to pump convection cooling past all the ICs. So you're deliberately hot in the area of the power supply at the back of this photo, and that causes the air to rise and go out of the top vents, which pulls air from the bottom vents past all the chips to the hot spot by the transformer. So you're kind of sacrificing the voltage regulator to keep the CPU and the RAM cooler without using a fan.
That's nice. It's passive cooling, basically.
Okay,
So
I didn't know that.
It seemed very sophisticated when I read it. I don't have the reference in front of me, but could be. I mean, it seems to work.
Okay. I'm sure Alan can comment that. He was in the chat earlier too, so I don't know if he wants to pop on, maybe talk about this too. If he has the time to do so.
Okay, so what's the final temperature after he does this though? And there's a lot of comments saying that this should really be tested with the lid on and not in open air like this too. So, okay, now he's putting the lid on.
Yeah. I don't know if he actually on display maybe gives it.
But let's just see for fun. 26 degrees C.
So kind of cut it in half.
From 60 or 62 degrees C down to 26.
Almost a
I
third.
mean, barely above.
Yeah, so you lopped off 40 degrees Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
As long as you tested before and after with the lid off, you're going to assume similar results.
Yeah,
the lid
it's
on.
creating an airflow which is blowing over the regulator, but that air can escape out of the open top Coco. He needs the lid on, and to work with it that way.
Looks like
where
he's
the
got-
air doesn't escape so easily.
Looks like he's got the high performance spacebar installed.
Yeah.
If the air escapes so easily, Nick, though, it shouldn't be running at 60 degrees with the case off like he did earlier.
Yeah, but the air is stagnant. By having the fan there, he's creating a flow, so there's air moving. So whatever hot air is coming off the regulator, it is moving it away and therefore out of the case. Put the lid on, that hot air still stays in the case. That's why you've got to have something that blows that air out or that helps the air out.
Well, you're saying if the case is on, it's just going to circulate within the case and not in
Yeah,
the case.
with the lid on, the
Yes,
air in the case isn't being circulated as it is with the lid off, or not as much. It does. Air does still escape out.
It would
of the
be more
vents, but
efficient
it's-
if it.
It's
yeah.
reduced. Yeah.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. And that's how most modern PCs, how they have to handle cooling, is that the case has to be completely sealed and you have your intake and your exhaust and the whole stuff like that. So, but yeah, so I don't know if we hear the final verdict, what he did when the, with the lid on, but yeah, I guess we'll have to wait.
And Mark Siegel in the chat says Nick is correct, so he's agreeing with you on that too.
There you go.
So, yeah,
What-
Nick,
what
listen,
you do
Nick
is
is
put
always
chicks in the
right.
mail.
We should always just know that Nick is always right.
Yeah, and he always tells us that too, just in case we forget. So
Should put smoke down below and see if the smoke comes through and comes out.
Right, like kind of how they do the aerodynamic tests and stuff.
Yeah.
He did say how this is going to be a test unit that he's going to be taking chips in and out of all the time. So the case will probably be off of it most of the time.
So just have a normal fan blowing over the Coco.
Right.
And it'd be interesting, like if he's got the equipment, like a thermocouple measuring device or something, to actually measure it with the case on, just to see what kind of a difference it's making and where is the actual heat flow going. He was in the chat earlier, but I guess he must have had to step away because I haven't seen anything from him. But I'd love him to pop on and maybe just kind of talk about that. Maybe he did test that, just didn't record it, the video. I'm not sure, or what his thoughts are on that.
I found the best place to put a fan is on the back of the Coco, right behind where the transformer is, and blowing the air out from there. I've got a Coco 3 that does that. It runs cooler than my Coco, which has one of those modern RAM upgrades. This one doesn't have that, and yet it runs cooler than that machine does anyway. That's because you're blowing the hot air being generated by the power supply and the regulator area straight out the back.
Yeah, like I know in our case, we the RAM was so tightly compressed because there's two satellite boards of RAM over top of each other for the 1 meg upgrade from Disto, the original one, and that was running even hotter than the transformer area was. So we put the fan right there under Tony's recommendation, and that because when we had one time where the fan actually got unplugged by accident, the machine would crash within like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
and it was the RAM, not the transformer itself, that was causing the problem. But that's a special case because nobody sells RAM like that for the Coco 3s anymore. It's just ridiculous.
No.
Static RAM or even the older SIM RAM is much cooler.
Okay.
It's a pretty good, pretty awesome video, and he does his professional style video stuff here. But yeah, I'd love to get a follow up from him after listening to you guys talk about it, who understand what you're talking about, unlike me. Let's see what his thoughts are on that. That's the end of the news for today.
If you don't plug it in, it won't get warm.
That's right. Now, Mr. Dave says you need to preheat your Coco before turning it on. So is it you preheat it to 450, and then what's going on? To preheat the Coco before
Get
turning
some
on.
ketchup and.
Rick, you saying the flow is under the keyboard, over the circuit board, and towards the power supply, over the river and through the woods. Hottest thing being the regulator pass. Okay.
Transistor, I guess.
Yeah, the pass transistor there. One of those two things will be the hottest thing, and air will rise up from them.
Okay.
So everything that is fed before that is cooler. That's kind of the idea.
All right. Now, Nick, I don't know if you joined us before when you did. So we were talking about project updates and acquisitions, and then we talked about how you sneak peeked your game. Is there anything else that maybe you needed to tell us, Nick?
Not really. I mean, it's still early days, so anything I say may change the next time.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's the fun though, because then we can actually finally say you're wrong about something.
Nah, that'll never happen. So Alan finally responded. He says, "No, I'm still here. This way pulls air from under the case across the hotspots and then out the vents on top of the case. I suppose Nick believes that air can only be pulled and not pushed." Okay. That might be maybe you're wrong, Nick. I'm not sure.
Well, you can push air as well, but I mean the way that he had the fan, it wasn't really pushing it or pulling it even in the right towards an output and an exit.
Okay. I have an exit that I push air out from time to time. So.
Hey, we do not want a live demonstration of that.
No. So I just want to plug two, and so if anybody who's tuning in late, when I talked about my project updates and acquisitions, or my whatever, I mentioned I'm starting a side project, which is a new podcast, audio only podcast that is based on pop culture. But I want to plug two guests that are going to be coming up that hopefully people might want to tune into. So I'll just throw this over here real quick, and then we can maybe put this in the live chat too. But the new podcast I'm doing, that is an audio only podcast about pop culture and basically anything. It's an open door where we can talk about whatever we want. So that's the podcast you can look for. It's called Culture Goes Pop. One of my first interviewees is going to be somebody who I met here locally in my part of Florida, but is known internationally for his dozen or so albums. But his name is Mark Barnes, and his website, which I'll put in the chat, is called markbarnesmusic.com. So I'm definitely looking forward to interviewing him about his musical career. Most of his music is kind of new age, so think of your kind of Yanni, John Tesh, a little bit of Enigma style stuff. And he's even offered for me to use one of his tracks as maybe an intro music to the podcast. I have to, so I have a bunch of his music I'm kind of going through now and absorbing. So this will be an interview coming up, hopefully in maybe May. So check that out. And then another interview that I'm really looking forward to is the guy who I do the podcast with, Scott Wilson, we went to a comic book store down here in South Florida called Past, Present, Future Comics, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool to interview people who run a comic book store, right? Because they sell comic books, they sell collectibles. And it just so turns out one of the co-owners of this place, his name is Justin, he's not only going to talk about running the comic book shop, but he's also been running a podcast based on the horror movies and films and stuff like that for 6 or some odd years too. So we're going to get him on. And I think just based on the kind of pre-interview conversation I have with this guy, it's going to be radio gold because this guy is so interesting to listen to and talk to. So I'm really looking forward to having other things to geek out on in addition to the Coco that will hopefully be of interest to us here on the panel and the show. So just kind of teasing a couple of upcoming interviews that will happen probably starting in May. And I look forward to anybody who wants to be a guest or suggest a topic to talk about. We're definitely going to be talking about video games and new computers and old computers and stuff like that. So that's all I have to say about that. Anybody else have anything you want to say before we press the button on this?
Get your questions ready for the Terry Steen interview in 2 weeks.
Terry Steen in 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll run that one more time. We'll run the Terry Steen promo.
Hi, this is Terry Steen, author of Coco games like Gray Lady, Balloon Fire, Gunfighter, and Miss Pac. And I'll be on the CoCoTALK show live April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, this is Terry Steen. I'm the author of a bunch of Coco games like Balloon Fire, Gray Lady, Gunfighter, Miss Pac-Man. And I'm going to be on the CoCoTALK show on I knew I was going to screw up. All right, maybe we should just cancel the whole thing.
Take two.
Hi, this is Terry Steen. I'm the author of a lot of Coco games like Balloon Fire, Gray Lady, Gunfighter, Miss Pac-Man, and I'm going to be on the Coco show April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
We're not the Coco show. We're CoCoTALK.
Oh, sorry.
That's a different show.
Coco show today, buddy.
Third time's the charm.
Model 3. And I got one for a Model 3, and I don't know why this is brown.
Oh, those are the, is that the extended warranty thing?
No, these are all quick guides for.
Oh, not the yeah. What do you call it? Quick reference? The quick reference ones are different computers.
Here's one for Model 4. Quick reference guide.
Yeah.
And then there's these things who are made by Nano Systems Corp. It's a basic assembler guide.
Let me spotlight you for a second here, Ronnie. Oh wow!
Look at that thing. Jeez.
Yeah, Lord have mercy. Right?
Man, that thing folds like a map.
Yes, it does. Yeah. That's the quote unquote basic assembly guide. And was there ever an advanced assembly guide?
Yeah, really. And here's the other side.
Wow. This almost looks like
they had a Coco version of this one too.
Yep.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Starting to remind me of that Harry Potter map. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good, where you see all the stuff moving across the screen.
I have two of them, and one's slightly green, and one's maybe it's just faded. I don't know. But anyway, those things are cool.
Absolutely.
Do you have the Coco one, Ron, or no?
Yeah. Well, I have the Coco 2 one. Oh no, I don't. Not here. Probably out in my observatory. I need to get all my stuff together.
Oh, so Taylor and Amy are still out there. I don't know if you heard me earlier, too. I was hoping that I could maybe re-air your interview that we did with you guys on this show on that podcast. And I don't know if you guys want to help me record a new bumper for that, or if you want to do a new interview to talk about some new videos. But you guys are a hoot. We'd love to have you as another interview, or at least I want to re-air your interview we did with you guys recently to a whole new audience and get you up to some more subscribers there, too. Cool stuff. Anybody have any parting thoughts, parting words, words of wisdom, words of good advice, bad advice?
Not here.
No.
All right, we'll take that awkward silence as a big fat no.
Push the button, Frank.
Well, I do want to say one more thing too. And if you caught us last night, they say we are game. That's awesome. That would be awesome. And I think like the sibling rivalries would be another good one to do, and things like that too. So we did a test stream last night of a kind of scaled down version of doing the show. And that's kind of addressing a concern that I have of really having a backup to the backup, because if I can't stream, our only backup right now is Mark Bosley, and he's only one person, and we don't really have a backup to him. So the service that we use, that is Restream, it has a studio built into the browser that's all browser based. So it's not quite as fancy in all the features we have here when we use OBS and Zoom and 2 screens and lots of horsepower to drive it. But for a browser-based way to run the show, we have a plan C. And I'll work on trying to tweak it to make it as flexible as possible. Oh, Nick Marota's there. We have a Nick Marota sighting. Hey, everybody. It's the one and only Nick Marota. Yeah, it's called Culture Goes Pop, and the website is culturegoespop.com. But if you just search for Culture Goes Pop, it's already on Amazon Music, and it's on Apple Podcasts. It's almost on Google. It's on Spotify, a few places like that. Thanks for asking, Nick. But yeah, what was I going to say? So yeah, I'm working on an alternate way to stream the show, which would be great if if we have this, we have a situation where it's an emergency and the main dude and the backup dude can't do it, literally anybody can log into there and stream the show. So we did a test on it last night. There's some cool features. There's some things about it I like. There's some lack of flexibility that I don't like, but for being all run through a browser, I think it's a great option for us to have a backup way to run the show. I'm excited about that because that's always given me some stress. Just God, what happens if I can't do it and Mark can't do it? We're screwed, right? So there we go.
You're excited.
I'm excited. Ooh, I'm like David Ladd with a new floppy drive. Ooh, yes, oh my. All right, we're gonna skip the outro. Final thoughts or just goodbye, everybody.
Push the button, Frank.